So I roll up to Skagtown in my fancy carriage with the family banner flapping in the wind, and the first thing I see is this chubby dude literally rolling down a hill to greet me. Like, full-on human bowling ball. That's Moore, my new agricultural manager, which is a fancy title for the guy who yells at slaves and collects taxes in this middle-of-nowhere dump my dad gifted me. Yeah, gifted. Let's call it what it is. I got exiled. My old man, the great Duke Crackscale, one of the three big shots just below the Black Iron King himself, decided his illegitimate son needed some fresh mountain air. Permanently. The family legend says our ancestor once shot an arrow clean through a fire dragon's scales, nearly killed the thing, and that's how we got our name. Very heroic. Very cool. And now, generations later, his bloodline reward is me, standing on a rocky hillside watching 50 slaves pretend to work. Moore's sweating like a snowman in a sauna. Poor guy got maybe 2 days' notice that an actual lord was coming, and the best he managed was a half-cleared patch of dirt. No house. No manor. Not even a decent shed. He's stuttering out excuses, can't even look me in the eye, probably convinced I'm about to chop his head off for fun because that's what nobles do when they're in a bad mood, right? Honestly, though, I'm not even mad. This place is perfect. Rolling hills, thick forests, a big river with clean water, prime farming real estate. Everyone thinks I got screwed, but joke's on them. I didn't come here to play king. I came here to play farmer. And right on cue, something pops up in my vision like the universe's most dramatic notification. Game loaded. Neural link established. Consciousness, awake. Would you like to create your destiny? Oh, it is on. Okay, so here's my tragic backstory. I was a high schooler in my past life who died grinding a mobile game called Noah's Ark instead of studying for college exams. Yes, I literally gamed myself to death. No, I don't want to talk about it. Yes, I deserve every bit of judgment you're throwing at me right now. Then I woke up as a baby noble in medieval fantasy land, which would be cool except everything here smells terrible and the aristocrats are all corrupt parasites. Even my own family, the mighty Crackscales, are basically just fancy leeches with a cool dragon-shooting ancestor. But here's the twist. That stupid mobile game followed me into this world. Except it took 16 years to finish loading. 16 years. I've seen internet cafes in the countryside with better connection speeds. The moment it finally booted up, I knew I had to bail from the family estate. War is coming. The nobility is rotten to the core, and I refuse to go down with that sinking ship. So I basically told my dad, I want my inheritance, peace out, and got myself shipped to the middle of nowhere. Other nobles think I got punished. Nah fam, I chose this. So the game fires up and asks my name. Roman creates my destiny profile. That's what players are called. And immediately I discover the cruel joke. The only unlocked feature is Life's Breath mode, which is literally farming simulator, chopping trees, mining rocks, pulling weeds. The gacha system where you summon cool warrior characters called apostles. Locked. The epic battles. Locked. Strategy mode. Locked. Everything fun. Locked. I get 100 crystals from daily login. Summoning one apostle costs 160. There's no beginner bonus. The game basically handed me a hoe and said, good luck, loser. I named my farm Origin because I'm sentimental like that, and the game maps it perfectly onto my actual territory, pixel version of the Real Hills, river, and forest right in front of me. One lonely little pixel dude standing there. That's me, the exiled lord with a farming simulator in his brain. Meanwhile, poor Moore has been apologizing this entire time, and I haven't heard a single word because I was staring into space reading game menus. The guy's practically having a panic attack. He thinks my silence means I'm plotting his execution. He's literally imagining me having him stripped naked and thrown into a pig pen. Buddy, I don't even have a pig pen yet. When I finally tune back in, he promises a manor in half a month. Too slow. 10 days. Still too slow. I need a roof tonight. So I do what any sensible nobleman would do. I take off my coat, roll up my sleeves, and grab a log that four slaves were struggling to carry. Just yeet it onto my shoulder and start building. Moore nearly faints. My lord, you can't do manual labor, he screams, like I just committed a war crime. Then he whimpers. Are you going to send me to the pig pen? I look at him dead in the eyes. Depends on whether I get a good night's sleep tonight. His face crumbles like a sad eggplant. But he grabs the wood and starts helping, probably for the first time in his cushy little life. And floating in my vision, building experience 1 level 1 building, 1 out of 100. Everything else, 0. Well, time to start grinding life skills. Again, at least this time dying from overwork would be on brand. Right, so the game system, Life's Breath, works like this. You do stuff in real life, you get experience points. Build a house, building XP. Plant crops, farming XP. Chop trees, gathering XP. And when you level up a skill, you get crystals, 500 crystals for hitting level 2. That's huge because summoning an apostle costs 160 and daily login only gives me 100. The catch? I busted my butt all day and got 10 building XP out of 100 needed. So at this pace, leveling up is going to take a while. But, and this is the beautiful part, every single experience point downloads construction knowledge directly into my brain. By the end of the day, I was working like a guy with months of experience. One man doing the work of 10. The slaves were genuinely confused about which side of the social hierarchy they were on. I managed to throw up 5 wooden cabins before dark. Are they ugly? Absolutely hideous. Logs for walls, slanted roofs, straw on top. They'll block wind, but if it rains, we're all taking a bath in bed. Any normal noble would rather sleep in a ditch. But I built these with my own 2 hands and honestly. Chef's kiss. Gorgeous. No notes. Now let me introduce my magnificent entourage. When I left home, the family gave me a starter pack, 2 combat knights, 1 steward, 2 clerks, a chef, 3 kitchen helpers, 5 male slaves, 5 maids, plus horses and supplies. 20 people total, including me. For a regular noble, this would be generous. For the son of a Grand Duke, it's basically a participation trophy. The steward is Scythe, nearly 40, stiff as a board, clothes so crisp you could cut yourself on his collar. He was my etiquette teacher back home, and the only person who refused to help carry logs today. He stood there watching us sweat, and then had the audacity to say, "My lord, manual labor is beneath your station. It violates noble protocol." I told him if noble protocol could magically build me a mansion, I'd be happy to use it. He's the kind of honorable gentleman you can bully precisely because he's too proper to fight back. But he's got real management skills, which is why I snagged him. Nobody else wanted the uptight old guy. Their loss. Then there's my 2 knights, Aaron and Green. No official knighthood yet, but both tough fighters. Aaron is the reliable one. Immediately started unloading the carriages without being asked. Good man. Green, on the other hand. When I announced we're sleeping in my beautiful handmade shacks tonight, Green looked at me like I'd just suggested we eat rocks for dinner. More, still desperately trying not to get executed, offered to let us stay in Skag Town for the night. I'll pass, I said. Medieval towns are literally open sewers. Dogs wouldn't live there. Green, without missing a beat, I wouldn't mind going. I stared at him. Then go. And don't come back. This maniac actually saluted and said, "Yes, sir," like he was marching off to glorious death, then turned to Moore and announced, "Lead the way." Poor Moore nearly had a stroke. One sentence from me and my own knight just betrayed me. Moore's standing there sweating, thinking this is some elaborate loyalty test where 500 assassins are going to jump out of the bushes the moment he agrees. I kicked Green before he could take another step. He turned around and gave me the most dramatically wounded puppy eyes, like, "You're going to suffer out here, and you won't even let me escape." Look, Green grew up with me. He's family raised, loyal to the bone. The odds of him actually betraying me are lower than pulling a 6-star on a single summon. The problem is I corrupted him. We grew up together, and my bad influence made him like this. This is technically my fault. I shooed Moore away, told him to come back early tomorrow for orders. He left looking deeply uncertain about whether his new lord was a genius or a lunatic. Fair question, honestly. The slaves left too, absolutely shell-shocked. I guarantee you tonight in their quarters someone is saying, "You know the new lord?" I carried logs with him today, and absolutely nobody believes them. After everyone cleared out, my chef whipped up dinner. Nothing fancy, but edible, and we settled into our rooms. Me in one cabin, the knights and Scythe crammed into another, everyone else wherever they fit. I lay on my plank bed, spring air coming through every crack in the walls, and spent the whole night poking around the game interface. Sleep? Who needs sleep? I've got menus to explore. Day 2 in paradise. My body woke me up at dawn automatically because the Crackscale family rule is up before sunrise, train with the knights. 16 years of that, and your internal alarm clock becomes a tyrant that doesn't care how late you stayed up poking at game menus. Aaron and Green were already outside swinging their steel greatswords, the ones mixed with mountain copper, making the air whistle. They didn't spar with each other, though, because out here there's nobody to fix damaged weapons. Back home, there was a whole repair team. Here, we've got me and my 5 ugly cabins. I didn't join training. Instead, I squatted on the ground, pulling weeds like a madman. Planting Experience 1C, I figured out last night that the game has 9 life skills: building, planting, gathering, raising animals, hunting, cooking, medicine, crafting, and forging. No way I can grind all of them at once, so priorities. It's early spring, planting season, and the farming around here is absolutely criminal. These idiots get less than 100 pounds per acre because their technique is basically throw seeds at dirt and pray. I was pulling weeds and cursing under my breath so intensely that every servant who walked past gave me a wide berth, thinking I was in a murderous mood. I was, just not toward them, toward bad agriculture. Then more showed up with yesterday's slaves, right on schedule. The poor things were shivering in the cold. It's still basically winter mornings in this basin, and they're dressed in rags. I looked at them, looked at more, and made a decision that apparently broke the fabric of medieval society. I told my chef Bob to cook porridge. 50 bowls worth. Bob's face fell. My lord, one pot can't make that much. Then make several pots. Why do I have to explain this? Then Scythe appeared like a disapproving ghost. My lord, I'm afraid we don't have enough grain to support your generosity. I looked at Moore. Moore immediately volunteered to send over Skagtown's entire grain reserves. Problem solved. Scythe looked like he wanted to file a formal complaint with the universe. This violates every rule and custom, Scythe said, scandalized. I am the rules, I told him, and patted his shoulder for emphasis. He stared at the muddy handprint on his pristine clothes like I'd smeared dog poop on him. Then he went off muttering about having to use noble dinnerware for slave porridge, because we obviously don't own 50 peasant bowls. And once slaves eat from noble dishes, those dishes are contaminated forever by aristocratic standards. Scythe is probably calculating whether working for me is going to end up costing him money. Honestly, probably yes. I pulled Moore aside and gave him 3 tasks. 1. Send me every document and record Skagtown has. Everything goes to Scythe. Right away, easy one. 2. Take my 2 clerks, and in 3 days, give me a complete census of every person and their occupation in Skagtown and all surrounding villages. Moore went quiet. Suspicious quiet. Sweaty quiet. See, the thing is, this chubby little grifter has never actually counted the population. His entire job for years has been, take 50% of everything Skagtown produces, skim whatever he wants, send a fixed tax to the Duke, pocket the difference. Why would he ever need accurate numbers? Accurate numbers are the enemy of skimming. Which brings me to task 3. If your numbers don't match mine, I said with a smile, you'll be eating black bread in the pig pen. Moore made a face that was trying to be a smile, but looked more like someone stepping on a nail. I could practically hear him thinking, there isn't even bread in the pig pen. I patted his back and watched my round little manager waddle onto his horse and gallop toward town like his life depended on it. Because it kind of does. I brought seeds with me when I left home. Lots of them. Unlike every other noble who thinks dirt is something servants clean off your boots, I've actually secretly farmed before. Not well, mind you, but enough to know which end of the hoe goes in the ground. First order of business. I sent the slaves to build a toilet and a kitchen. I will not have people using my estate as an open-air bathroom. Standards, people. Standards. The slaves, by the way, absolutely loving me right now. I fed them warm porridge this morning, and you'd think I handed them gold bars. Their internal rating system apparently goes, gives us 1 extra bite equals merciful Lord, gives us 2 extra bites equals great merciful Lord, gives us a whole bowl of hot porridge equals legendary blue sky mega lord. I'm basically their god now. All it cost was some oats. Then I grabbed a hoe and started tearing into the earth. Alone. Just me versus an acre of ground. All morning, no breaks. Planting Experience 1. My body is 16 and built like a tank from years of noble protein-rich diet, so I've got the strength. The experience points kept downloading farming knowledge into my brain, stuff about soil preparation, making raised rows for drainage, breaking up hard dirt clumps. Techniques that are absolutely scientific and absolutely not how anyone in this medieval dump farms. These people basically fling seeds at the ground and hope for the best. Their yield is pathetic, less than 100 pounds per acre. It physically hurts me to watch. I planted parsnip seeds. They're technically a spring vegetable, basically a radish. Plant in early spring, harvest by summer. Baby steps. At lunch, green finally cracked. So when are we actually going to Skagtown? You know, to do Lord stuff. Skagtown isn't going anywhere. What's the rush? Even Aaron, my silent, stoic, never complains knight, couldn't hold back. Then when these two were trained their whole lives for war. They followed me to this remote basin expecting conquest and glory. Instead, they're watching me garden. I could feel their souls leaving their bodies. I know you want to do big things, I told them gently. But this is the big thing. And later I'll bring you along for even bigger things. Green, deadpan. You mean bigger farming? I looked at him and smirked. Aaron could handle it. You? Not good enough. Green just stared at me, completely baffled that I was trash-talking his farming ability like it was a competitive sport. Aaron's mouth twitched, almost a smile, before snapping back to his stone-faced default. Quietly develop. Then punch the whole world in the face. That's the plan. After lunch, Moore dropped off all of Skagtown's records. I threw the stack at Scythe to keep him busy and stop him nagging me about etiquette. 2 days passed. 5 acres plowed and planted with vegetables. My body was screaming by nightfall. Even with my physique, swinging a hoe for 12 hours straight turns your spine into a pretzel. But hey, young body, fast recovery. Level 1 planting. 59 out of 100, then Moore showed up looking like a man walking to his own execution. I told him to give me the census results verbally. My lord, Skagtown's population is approximately 1,800 to 1,900 people. I smiled. Really? Because you've been paying taxes for about 700. Moore turned white. His fat body started trembling like a bowl of jelly in an earthquake. Here's what happened. His dead dad never counted the actual population. Moore inherited the job and also never counted. They kept paying the same fixed tax based on ancient numbers while the real population quietly tripled. For decades, nobody from the Crackscale family bothered to check because my father, who's nearly 80 and probably can't remember what he had for breakfast, forgot this place existed. On paper, massive tax fraud. Heads should roll levels of fraud. But honestly, I don't care. Even if Moore skimmed the difference for years, with productivity this low, what could he possibly have stolen? Enough to buy a few sets of armor? The man's a small-time grifter running a lemonade stand in a desert. He's not worth punishing, and I need hands. So I flipped past it. Moore nearly melted into a puddle of relief sweat. Why is there a 100-person range? I asked. I want exact numbers. Count the babies still in the womb if you have to. Moore's face went weird again. Hesitant. Struggling. Then, under my patient stare, he started explaining why. Moore filled me in on the rest of Skagtown's backstory. Turns out this place started as a refugee camp for runaway slaves and criminals who couldn't survive in normal society. A medieval hidden village, like if someone built a town entirely out of wanted posters. My old man raided it decades ago with 3 knights, stabbed his flag in the dirt, left 1 tax collector, and never looked back. The problem? People never stopped fleeing here. Most are harmless farmers, but some are legit dangerous. Fugitives, bandits, military deserters, and mountain hunters who know how to kill things with handmade weapons. Moore's 30 guards in leather armor can keep regular folks in line, but against these mountain men? Please don't poke the bears, is basically official policy. Moore warned me not to mess with them. I filed that under interesting and told him to get lost so I could keep farming. The population breakdown was actually fascinating though. Classic pyramid. Barely any old people because nobody lives past 40, decent number of adults, and tons of kids. Which means this basin is safe enough and fed enough that people are actually having babies. The population's been quietly growing for decades while the Crackscale family forgot this place existed. Humans are basically weeds. Give them food and safety, and they multiply like crazy. 6 more days of hoe swinging later, I'd cleared 10 acres and finally, level 2 planting unlocked. Knowledge flooded my brain. composting with manure, seed sorting techniques, deep plowing methods, how to build a curved beam plow. Actual agricultural technology that's centuries ahead of what these people are doing. My head was spinning so hard I had to sit down. Milestone reward. First bucket of dirt. 500 crystals. Combined with 7 days of daily login bonuses, I had 1,200 crystals. At 160 per summon, that's 7 pulls. I could wait 4 more days for a 10 pull, but there's no pity system, no raid-up banner, no preview. Just a murky gray pool with tiny stars floating in it. Maybe 2,000 of them. No guarantees whatsoever. You know what? Let's just pull. I've been staring at dirt for a week. I deserve this. Pull 1. The pool ripples. A star shoots up like a comet. Blue light explodes. 3 stars appear on a card. The image clears, and I nearly fall over backward. It's green. My green. My smart-mouthed knight is staring back at me from a gotcha card, head tilted, wearing that annoying smirk. 3-star rarity. Class, basically an assassin. Stats are mediocre, couple of D pluses, bunch of E's. Skills are all about dodging and speed. Yeah, that tracks. He's never been a stand-and-fight guy. So the apostles aren't random warriors falling from the sky. They're people around me? That actually makes way more sense than explaining why a stranger suddenly appeared and swore loyalty. Pull 2. Purple light this time. 4 stars. And it's Aaron. Of course it is. Standing there in full armor, looking like a recruitment poster for knightly virtue. 4-star tank build, better stats across the board, skills about shields and endurance, a talent for resisting status effects. Classic Aaron. Comparing their stat cards. Aaron is clearly stronger. 3D. 2E versus Green's 2D, 3E. They always seemed evenly matched in sparring, which means Aaron's been holding back this entire time. That sneaky humble jerk. Pull 3. White light. 2 stars. Some guy I've never seen before, rugged face, animal skins, carrying a longbow. Hunter vibes. Dota, 5 E-rank stats. 1 useful talent, keen eyesight. 1 tracking skill, basically a medieval wildlife camera with legs. I mean, compared to 2 trained knights, a random hunter's stats should be garbage. Not everyone gets raised on premium noble protein shakes and daily combat drills since childhood. But wait, if apostles are real people near me, then where exactly is this Dota guy? Where's my apostle? I just summoned a guy named Dota, and he's not exactly standing in front of me waving hello. But I couldn't figure it out, so I burned through my remaining 4 pulls. Pull 4. Scythe, my uptight steward. 1 star. Pull 5. Bob, my chef. 1 star. Pull 6. Some guy named Thelma. 1 star. Pull 7. Someone called Borrow. 1 star. For consecutive 1 stars with flat, E-rank everything. My luck said, here's 3 decent pulls for free, and then slammed the door in my face. Classic gotcha experience. Some things transcend reincarnation. So out of 7 apostles, for people already working for me, I spent resources to recruit guys I already have. That's like paying full price for shoes you're already wearing. The other 3, Dota, Thalma, Borrow, I've never heard of. They're out there somewhere, being apostles without knowing it. I dove into the management menu and immediately wanted to cry. Upgrading apostles needs experience books, made from rare magical materials. Skill books? Same. Forging signature weapons? Materials. Job changes. Prerequisites I can't meet. The only thing that works for free is the relationship meter, and my boys Aaron and Green are already at 70 to 80% because we grew up together. The strangers sit at 10%. Everything costs magical resources, orichalcum, mithril, mountain copper, magic stones. I know what these are. Nobles use them to enhance knight equipment. I've got some from my inheritance, but my total fortune is basically 20-something gold coins and a handful of shiny rocks. Cool. Cool. Now let me explain how power works in this world, because it matters. Knights are transcendents, ranked from tier 1 through 9. The last famous tier 9 was the Conqueror Emperor over 100 years ago, who built an armada to sail across a death ocean looking for some mythical convergence point, caught a disease, got attacked by sea monsters, and never came back. Very inspiring career arc. Here's my hot take though. Individual power is overrated. Sure, me, Aaron, and Green, 3 tier 1 transcendents, could theoretically massacre all 2,000 people in Skagtown. We'd only stopped because our arms got tired. 2,000 farmers against 3 knights is like 2,000 sheep meeting 3 tigers. But replace those sheep with 50 wolves? 30 wolves who won't run away? Suddenly those tigers are in serious trouble. Scale up to a real army, and even a Tier 9 god warrior has to sit down and negotiate. The math doesn't lie. The key isn't making one guy stronger. It's turning sheep into wolves. And the humans in this fantasy world have insane physical potential. No magical barrier between normal and transcendent. Just eat well, train hard, don't break yourself, and boom, Tier 1. A heavyweight boxing champion from my old world would qualify as a transcendent here. Easy D- punch power. So my real project isn't leveling up individual apostles. It's building an army of wolves. Got it. Good. Anyway, on day 7, I finally decided to visit Skag Town. When I announced this, Green's eyes literally lit up. He'd been watching me romance my farmland for a week and was desperate for something, anything, else. He sprinted to his room to gear up and found Aaron already standing outside in full mithril-laced armor, gleaming like a walking chandelier, holding his helmet and sword. A knight must always be prepared, Aaron said calmly. Liar. You just put that on, Green yelled. We rode in at noon. Me, 2 armored knights, and Scythe, on tall horses with iron-shod hooves hammering the packed road like war drums. Moore had assembled the entire population in the town square. Over 1,000 faces stared up at me. Rough, weathered, scared faces. Necks hunched, eyes darting. But not completely dead inside. There was still a little spark in there. Decades without a noble breathing down their necks had left them. Not happy exactly, but alive enough to be nervous rather than numb. I could read their thoughts perfectly. Please just keep things the way they are. We'll pay our 50% tax. Just don't make it worse. Please go away, honestly. If I announced, nothing changes, they'd probably build me a shrine. And if I squeezed them harder, they'd accept that too, because at least predictable cruelty feels safer than an unknown lord who builds his own cabins and pulls weeds at dawn. They have absolutely no idea what's coming. Time to put on my noble tyrant hat. I rode into that town square on my tall horse, sun behind me, so my face was all shadowy and dramatic, and I let it rip. I am Roman Crackscale, your lord, your ruler. Everything here belongs to me. The land, the rivers, the fish in those rivers, the birds flying over your heads, mine. Even that squirrel you're looking at, also mine. And by the way, you've all been breaking the law for decades. Hunting in MY mountains, fishing in MY rivers, chopping MY trees, all without permission. Everyone owes me 1 gold coin as punishment. 1 gold coin. These people have barely seen copper coins in their lives. You'd think I asked them each to hand over a kidney. The crowd went from dead silent to full meltdown in about 2 seconds flat. Crying, begging, crawling. One guy actually lunged toward me. Bad move. Shing. Aaron and Green drew their great swords simultaneously, which honestly must have looked absolutely terrifying from below. 2 armored giants on war horses, blades pointed at the sky, zero emotion on their faces. Living war statues. The lunging guy practically teleported backward. Now here's the thing. I'm not actually insane. Before leaving home, I negotiated 3 years of tax exemption from my father. 3 years where I answer to nobody. I can squeeze these people, rearrange everything, and no one above me will care or interfere. And the gold coin thing? That's the oldest negotiation trick in the book. Ask for the impossible first, then offer the reasonable alternative. You have 2 choices, I announced. Pay the fine, or obey my orders. Gee, what a difficult decision. Then I dropped bomb number 2. Send every child between ages 5 and 15 to my estate. After the gold coin nuke, this barely registered. They were too shell-shocked to process it. Next I called all the merchants forward. Skagtown actually has a small trading economy. The river system connects to the outside world, even though the Silver Dragon Canyon route is full of rapids and rocks that scare off most traders. The few merchants brave enough to come here had never paid commercial taxes. Obviously, one young merchant stepped up, bronze-skinned, well-dressed, clearly not local. My lord, everything you say is fair. We're all thieves stealing from your mountain. But why focus on us small-time pickpockets when the real bandits are hiding up in those hills? Bold move, kid. His name was Maury Pereira, son of some famous big-shot merchant named Selin. Probably another illegitimate son. Rich men scatter those like confetti. I filed him under, potentially useful later. I will deal with everyone, I said, cold as ice. Small thieves and big bandits. Nobody uses my resources for free. Then came the real bombshell. Starting today, all farming stops. Your old fields are abandoned. Anyone who touches a plow without my permission dies. Tomorrow, everything starts over. New system. My system. You will follow every order I give without question. Look, their farming methods are garbage. Absolute trash. They're wasting fertile soil with caveman techniques. Letting them keep farming the old way while I figure things out would just ruin more land. Better to hit the reset button hard. I puffed up my chest, deepened my voice to maximum war drum intensity, and bellowed my closing statement across the square. I am reclaiming all land, all resources. Your old way of life is over. I will redistribute everything. There will be no freedom to do as you please. You will obey. Then I yanked my reins and rode away without looking back. Maximum dramatic exit energy. Behind me, Moore was practically swimming in his own sweat. I could feel him thinking, yes, this is the noble behavior I was expecting. Terrifying, unreasonable, and absolutely unhinged. But even Moore had never seen a lord who didn't just squeeze the people dry. He'd never seen one who ripped up the entire garden to replant it from scratch. Can Skagtown ever go back to the way things were? Nope. And that's the whole point. On the ride home, Green took off his helmet and gave me a look. I thought you were going to keep feeding them porridge and be Mr. Nice Guy forever. Exploitation. That's a word Green learned from me. He's very proud of it. Uses it whenever he can. Then he added, good thing you went full tyrant back there, because if we can't exploit peasants, we can't afford white bread, and if I can't eat white bread, I can't maintain my training physique. Priorities. I hit him with, what if you really can't have white bread anymore? Green's face froze. Even Aaron turned to look. These two have known me since childhood. They know today was the starting gun for something big, something I've been waiting 16 years to begin. Green shrugged it off with his usual, whatever, you're the boss. We're just your knights. We literally can't say no, so do whatever crazy thing you want. Which sounds casual, but is actually the most ride-or-die declaration of loyalty you'll ever hear from this goofball. He and Aaron chose to follow me for a reason. They want to be part of something huge. Hearing that genuinely made me smile. Then Scythe trotted up to ruin the mood. Taking 300 children from their families is going to cause problems. He'd done the math. Kids aged 5 to 15 make up a massive chunk of the population. The older ones are basically free labor. They help in the fields, watch younger siblings. Pull them out, and every family falls apart. Parents can't work because someone has to watch the toddlers. Fields go untended. Valid concerns. But I'm not explaining the full plan yet. Short version, I need to start shaping these kids early. Get them used to coming to my estate. Build loyalty. Create a generation that thinks differently. It's a long game. I'm going to destroy their entire way of life, I told Scythe calmly. Manor-based subsistence farming is a joke. I'm centralizing all resources under my control and redistributing everything. Zero waste tolerance. Scythe's face said, you've lost your mind. I kept going. I'm also cutting the total farming area. Anyone who can't adapt can die. His face upgraded to, you've lost your mind and your soul. But here's the math that nobody in this medieval dump understands. Right now, 1 seed of wheat produces 4 seeds. A 1-to-4 ratio. That's why each family needs 60 acres just to not starve. They scatter seeds everywhere, pray for good weather, and accept that wind cuts the harvest in half and rain destroys it completely. If a merchant saw these profit margins, he'd hang himself on the spot. 300% returns make merchants commit crimes, but negative returns on farming make them commit suicide. My target? 120. 1 seed in, 20 seeds out. If I hit 1:8, I can have the farmland. At 116, I only need a quarter. With proper seed selection, composting, deep plowing, all the knowledge my level 2 planting skill downloaded into my brain. 120 is honestly conservative. Push crops to their genetic potential and the yields speak for themselves. Fewer acres farmed means freed up labor. And freed up labor means I can put people to work on everything else. Construction, mining, infrastructure. The game said I have a lot to do. Understatement of the century. The town has about 80 oxen for plowing, all previously owned by Moore and his little management clique, now confiscated by yours truly. 80 oxen for 2,000 people is pathetic. They could never plow all their fields in time, so whatever didn't get plowed just got random seeds thrown on it. Literally farming by vibes and prayers. I'm done with that. Cut the dead weight. Abandon the garbage fields that produce almost nothing. Concentrate everything on smaller, optimized plots with real technique. Today I secured 3 years of tax exemption from my father before leaving. 3 years where nobody above me asks questions. 3 years to flip this entire territory upside down. The plan is simple. Terrorize them into obedience today, revolutionize their farming tomorrow, and free up enough people to build an actual civilization. I don't have time for gentle reforms and town hall meetings and slowly winning hearts. That soft approach would take decades I don't have. War is coming. The world is changing. And I refuse to be caught planting seeds when the storm hits. Fast, brutal, efficient. Cut the knot, don't untie it. Somewhere behind me, Moore is probably still sweating, wondering if Skagtown will ever go back to the way things were. It won't. But what's coming next is going to be so much better. Assuming I don't mess up the farming ratios and accidentally starve everyone. But let's not think about that. Back at the estate, I remembered something. The game lets me give my apostles code names. So I turned to Green and Aaron and asked, "Hey, you guys want nicknames?" Green's eyes went wide. "You want to make us titled knights? See, in this world, only legendary warriors, tier 5 and above with epic achievements, get official titles. Like how the first Crackscale Duke shot through a dragon's scales and earned the name, Crackscale. It's a big deal." Green puffed up like a peacock. "I mean, becoming a titled knight will be easy for me eventually, but I'll admit there's a tiny gap between where I am now and that level." He held up his thumb and finger about an inch apart. "No," I said. "It's not about power. Just an alias." His face deflated like a sad balloon. "Then, can my codename be Green?" I stared at him. He stared back with genuine, "Why are you being weird?" energy. "Get out," I said. He wandered off scratching his head, completely unable to understand why I'd waste time asking him something so pointless. After that disaster, I didn't even bother asking Aaron. I just went into the Apostle management screen and typed Green and Aaron myself. Moving on. Meanwhile, back in Skagtown, my little speech had detonated like a bomb in a chicken coop. Every farmer in town swarmed more like drowning people grabbing a life raft. "Sir, do all 5 of my children have to go? Is the Lord turning us into slaves? Why can't we farm today? It's planting season. What's he going to eat if we don't plant?" Poor Moore turned beet red and exploded. "Shut up. All of you. Do you think I can change the Lord's mind? I'm nothing. I'm nothing in front of a noble. If I could change his mind, I wouldn't just cancel his orders. I'd have him execute every single one of you so I'd never have to deal with you pig people again." Then he shoved through the crowd and stomped away. Absolute legend of emotional management, that one. The farmers were left staring at each other in terror. Technically, I violated the law by seizing all their land. Their rental contracts give them farming rights. The king could punish me for this. But the king is hundreds of miles away and doesn't know this place exists. My own father barely remembers it. So, who's going to stop me? They spent the whole afternoon debating what I was planning. Most of them figured out I wasn't going to enslave everyone. They know I need them farming to eat. The general theory was that this was just a power move, and if they act obedient enough, I'll eventually throw them a bone. They're not entirely wrong. They're just not remotely prepared for how different that bone is going to look. Now here's where things get spicy. That young merchant from earlier, Maury Pereira, the bronze-skinned pretty boy, went back to his ship at the dock. Turns out he's not really here to trade. That was just his cover story. Inside his ship's cabin sat a woman in a black hooded robe. All you could see was red lips and a pale chin. Very mysterious. Very dramatic. Her name was Shasta, and she was not happy. "Did you find her?" she asked. "No," Maury said, pulling out a purple crystal. "Your intel might be wrong. Everyone in town is talking about the new lord. I couldn't dig up anything else. Useless," she snapped. Maury sighed and summarized my big speech for her. When he got to the part about sending all children to my estate, Shasta's reaction was not what I'd expect. I knew nobles had disgusting hobbies, but most of them at least do it secretly. This one's doing it out in the open. Boys and girls. That's revolting. Mori blinked. You think he's a predator? What else would a man want with hundreds of children at his private estate? So apparently there's a mysterious woman on a boat who thinks I'm a medieval creep. Fantastic. Great start to my reputation. To his credit, Mori defended me, sort of. He pointed out that if I had those kinds of interests, I wouldn't have waited 7 full days farming turnips before collecting kids. Fair logic, Mori. Thank you for believing in my innocence based on my love of agriculture. Mori's actual theory was more interesting. Maybe I'm building an army? Training child soldiers into future knights? But he couldn't figure out why I'd seize all the farmland too, or how this tiny basin could possibly support that kind of operation. He stared out at the mountains ringing Skag Town and wondered, is this lunatic going to try carving a road through solid rock to connect with the outside world? Buddy, you have no idea what this lunatic is planning. And honestly, neither does anyone else in this story, including my own staff. The only one who knows is me, and the pixel farmer living rent-free in my brain. While I was sleeping peacefully in my cabin after a hard day of revolutionary farming, apparently my town was being haunted. But I didn't know that yet. Let me tell you what I pieced together later. So that merchant kid Mori? Turns out he's smuggling a witch on his boat. Her name's Shasta. She wears a black robe like every mysterious woman in every story ever. And she's looking for another witch, a girl named Gwyneth who apparently escaped into the mountains around Skag Town. Here's the deal. The church hunts witches in this world. Burns them alive, the whole medieval package. Mori's family secretly helps witches on the side, which is the kind of side hustle that gets your entire bloodline deleted if anyone finds out. Shasta came here hidden on his trade ship because their intel said a young witch was somewhere in this area. Problem is, Mori spent 3 days searching with a magic purple crystal that's supposed to detect witch energy and got absolutely nothing. His theory, the girl isn't in town anymore. She probably got exposed somehow and fled into the deep mountains. Then these two started arguing like an old married couple. Shasta wanted to go search herself. Mori said absolutely not. If she gets caught, it traces back to him. She called him useless. He called her reckless. She shot smoke from her hand and created a literal fog wall between them and stormed off. Mori kicked a rock and immediately regretted it. Classic. That night, Shasta went full horror movie on Skag Town. She can turn into creepy smoke, slip into people's houses, and make sleeping people talk in their dreams. She drifted from hut to hut whispering, "Where's the witch of Skag Town?" like the world's most unsettling census worker. Most people mumbled nonsense. But one old farmer sleep-talked a name, Gwyneth. Shasta pressed harder. The old man's dream scrambled into panic mode. She's not my daughter. She's an evil witch. Please, church lords, don't burn us. Witch told Shasta everything. This guy is Gwyneth's father, and he's so terrified of the church that even in his dreams he's disowning his own kid. But he genuinely didn't know where Gwyneth went. Dead end. Shasta was about to leave when she noticed a woman sleeping next to him. Gwyneth's mother, probably, with 4 other kids in the room, ages ranging from toddler to 10. She turned to go, but the mother was faking sleep. The woman sat up to shake her husband awake and couldn't. Shasta's magic had knocked him into deep sleep. Don't bother. He won't wake up, came Shasta's voice from behind her. The mother turned and saw a cloud of smoke with glowing red eyes staring at her. She screamed, "Don't hurt my children." The smoke drifted closer. Where is Gwyneth? And that's where the scene cuts. Meanwhile, some random farmer who was still awake saw the smoke creature sliding between houses and nearly died of fright, convinced a demon from hell was eating people's souls. So to recap, I'm trying to build a farming utopia, and there's a witch hunt happening in my backyard that I know absolutely nothing about. A smoke which is terrorizing my citizens in their sleep. There's a missing girl in my mountains. The church wants her dead, and a merchant is having a nervous breakdown on his boat. And I'm just lying in bed, peacefully dreaming about crop rotation ratios. Being a lord is great. You miss all the fun stuff. I was having a beautiful morning admiring my perfectly plowed fields. Rows so straight, they'd make a geometry teacher weep, when more came galloping and screaming like someone was skinning him alive. My lord, demons. Demons in Skag Town last night, I sighed. Can't a man enjoy his dirt in peace? After getting the details, mysterious smoke creature drifting between houses, people unable to wake up. I called Green and Aaron over for a quick brainstorm. Took us about 30 seconds to figure it out. Witch, Magic can't sustain that kind of thing. Only a witch could pull off something that creepy for that long. Now let me explain the whole witch in church situation in this world, because it's a mess. Power in this land runs on a triangle: kings, nobles, and the church. The church worships multiple gods and has serious military muscle. Holy knights, witch hunter knights, inquisition knights. Plus they collect a 10% income tax from literally everyone called the tithe. Imagine the IRS, but with swords and divine righteousness. Except in the Black Iron Kingdom. Our 3 Grand Dukes, including my dear old dad, collectively told the church to shove their tithe where the sun doesn't shine. If church armies ever step outside their holy territory, all 3 dukes would gang up and smash them. The king technically pays the tithe, but the dukes who control 40% of the military do not, and there's nothing the church can do about it. Skagtown has 0 church presence. No chapel, no priests, no tithe collectors. If there was a church here, I'd quietly deal with it. Mountains are tall, the emperor is far away. Who's gonna know? Now, witches. Every woman has a tiny chance of spontaneously awakening witch powers. The church considers witches and mages to be walking disasters. Unclean filth that must be purged. Their witch hunter knights have spent centuries burning every witch they find. And not just the witch, her whole family gets purified, too, because supposedly witch blood contaminates relatives. When I was 10, I watched the church burn a witch alive on Crackscale territory. My father refused to pay their taxes, but somehow didn't stop them from executing a witch on his land. I went to watch out of curiosity. I saw the fire, the black smoke rising like a devil's grin. A helpless woman tied to the stake, neck stretched back, face covered in soot, her screams swallowed by the crackling of burning wood. Everything collapsed into ash. Something cracked inside 10-year-old me that day. I've never forgotten it. Anyway, back to breakfast. It's not a demon, I told everyone at the table. Just a passing witch. More sat down. I don't have fancy dining rules. Green and Aaron were already stuffing their faces. Scythe, the eternal snob, refused to sit and insisted on standing beside me, waiting to eat my leftovers like a self-imposed second-class citizen. Nobody asked him to do that. He chooses suffering. More asked carefully, should we notify the church, my lord? They pay 10 gold coins to anyone who reports a witch. That's the price of 20 oxen. I could see the dollar signs in his eyes. This man would sell his grandmother for 20 cows. I looked at him. Why would I do that? She's just passing through. Moore's inner monologue was practically visible on his face. Passing through? This is the most remote corner of the entire kingdom. Nobody passes through here. You pass through here on your way to nowhere, but out loud? Yes, you're absolutely right, my lord. Smart pig. I asked if there was any panic. Moore said only 2 people actually saw the smoke creature. Nobody was hurt or missing, and he'd already told the witnesses to keep their mouths shut. Then forget about it, I said. The witch was clearly looking for someone in Skagtown. Not my problem. I don't have a purple crystal to detect witches, I don't have the time, and frankly I don't care. As long as she's not burning down my fields or scaring my future workforce, she can smoke drift around all she wants. I finished breakfast and headed to Skagtown with my whole crew, Green, Aaron, Scythe, and more. I had a revolution to start, and no spooky fog lady was going to delay my schedule. I arrived at Skagtown, and the people were already waiting, looking at me like puppies who just got yelled at. Good. Yesterday's tyrant act worked perfectly. They were submissive, obedient, and absolutely terrified. Exactly what I needed. No speeches today. Time to work. First order, spring wheat. This is what Skagtown always grows, so I'm keeping that tradition. But everything else about how they grow it? Garbage. Gone. Deleted. Normal seeding rate here, 15 to 20 pounds per acre. My rate, 30 pounds minimum. Spring wheat needs heavy seeding, or the yields are pathetic. Back in my old world, farmers planted 50 pounds per acre and pulled 1,000 pounds out. Obviously, we can't hit those numbers here, but we can do way better than what these medieval amateurs are managing. Step 1. Seed selection. The proper method uses salt water to float out the bad seeds. Problem? Salt is a luxury item here. These people can barely afford to season their food, let alone fill a pool with brine. So I improvised. Mud water. Same density principle. Mix clay into water until the bad seeds float. Downside, someone has to stir it constantly. I set up a barrel, calibrated the mud-to-water ratio, and assigned 2 farmers to stir in shifts. More crept over and asked why I was making people stir mud soup. Don't ask why. You don't deserve to know. You are farming tools. Tools don't need to understand why their owner swings them. Harsh? Yes. But am I going to stand here giving a TED talk on seed buoyancy to medieval peasants who think thunder is God sneezing? Absolutely not. Show them results first. Explanations later. Maybe. Now let me tell you about the farming situation that nearly melted my brain. Skagtown's total cultivated area last year? Over 10,000 acres. My jaw dropped. Then I looked closer and almost had an aneurysm. Most of those fields were scattered patches separated by forests, swamps, hills, and grassland. Half of them weren't even properly tilled. They'd just thrown some seeds on dirt and called it farming. These people call that farmland? Don't insult farmland. Those are glorified patches of wilderness with delusions of agriculture. And it gets worse. Because the soil loses nutrients after one season, they rotate constantly. Farm a patch this year, abandon it for several years, come back when nature restores the fertility. By my estimate, the total land they've ever farmed could be 30 or 40,000 acres. That's why they built satellite villages. The area is so huge that just walking to your field eats half your day. My plan: condense everything down to 2,000 acres of the best, most fertile land. A rectangle roughly 1.3 kilometers by 1 kilometer. 1 acre per person. That's it. But to make 2,000 acres produce what 10,000 couldn't, I need fertilizer. Lots of fertilizer. So I issued possibly the most dignified order in the history of feudal lordship. Everyone go collect poop. All the poop. Human, animal, whatever you can find. Plus rotten straw, dead grass, old stalks, river mud, anything that decomposes. Pile it up. We're making compost. Natural fermentation takes at least 2 weeks, so no planting until it's ready. 20 to 30 days of prep work before a single seed hits soil. The whole morning disappeared just setting things up. Then I called more over for the real bombshell. Find 80 women to cook. Every single person, including slaves, gets lunch every day. Half a pound of dry rations, 3-finger-thick slices of bread, a bowl of oat porridge with vegetable soup, and plenty of boiled clean water. This is also my lunch. Nobody schemes a single crumb. Moore's face went through about 17 emotions in 2 seconds. His brain was short-circuiting. Where does this food come from? You're eating the same thing as peasants? What do I eat? Are you staging a revolution? He wanted to argue, but my eyes shut him up. Here's the dirty secret. Skagtown is not actually short on food. Moore has been selling surplus grain for years to buy cattle and pad his pockets. Where do you think 80 oxen came from? That's a lot of skimmed harvests. I know it. He knows I know it. Neither of us mentions it. His past theft is forgiven. But that fat reserve of his? Consider it the town's emergency food budget. Time to slim down more. Voluntarily or otherwise. I did the math. About 1,200 able-bodied adults once you subtract kids under 15 and elderly who can't move. Everyone eats together at noon, no going home. Families with babies or immobile grandparents bring them to the communal meal. The 80 cooking women double as childcare. Every day? No exceptions. Centralized labor. Centralized feeding. Centralized childcare. Welcome to Skagtown 2.0, folks. The farming commune nobody asked for, but everyone's getting. I herded 300 kids back to Origin Estate like a shepherd with the world's most confused flock. These children are my long-term investment. They'll learn, they'll work around the estate, and if they misbehave, we have a simple educational philosophy. Get hit until you stop misbehaving. I'm not cruel. I'm efficient. Now, about my 2 clerks, German and Hans. Educated guys from city schools, sons of merchants and gentry, hired at premium wages. I paid them 1.2 gold coins per year, 50% above market rate, 3 years up front, 10-year contracts. For context, a knight with 1,000 acres of land only makes 10 to 20 gold coins annually before expenses, and most can barely afford to repair their own gear. These clerks are getting a sweet deal. So when I told them their job was to teach those 300 farm kids math, reading, and writing, you'd think I asked them to eat dirt. German spoke first. My lord, I didn't follow you to the edge of civilization to become a teacher. He wanted to be a judicial officer or a state manager. Something fancy with a title. Not babysitting mud-covered children. Hans backed him up. His grandfather was a lawmaker for a great lord. He has aspirations. Before coming here, I promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. Instead, they've been doing census arithmetic, and now I'm demoting them to kindergarten duty. So you're going to disobey my orders? My voice went cold. Hans, apparently finding courage somewhere deep in his skinny body, puffed up his chest. We have the right to refuse unreasonable commands. I could take this to the royal court. The king's judicial authority supersedes. He watched my eyes get progressively more terrifying, and his voice shrunk from courtroom declaration to mouse squeak. I pay you above market rate, I said quietly. Don't talk to me about your rights. Your salary buys my authority to command you. Dead silence. They could feel it, that calm before the hurricane energy. If they died out here, their families wouldn't hear about it for years. Nobody would come looking. Nobody would care. You signed a contract. You serve your master. Yes? Frantic nodding. Don't overestimate your importance. Don't overestimate my patience. And never question my decisions again, or I will execute you. I walked between them and left. That last line wasn't a bluff. They could feel the blood on it. Teaching peasant children might seem like a waste of 2 expensive employees. But these 2 idiots can't see past their own egos. I'm not building a farm. I'm building a civilization. And civilizations need literate people. 300 kids learning math and reading today means 300 capable administrators, engineers, and officers in 5 years. German and Hans just can't see the board I'm playing on. Back in Skagtown, the poop collectors had returned for lunch. Yes, I sent an entire workforce to gather feces all morning, and now they were lining up for food, smelling exactly like you'd expect. The outdoor dining area had all the ambience of a public toilet. I walked right through without flinching. I'll be handling that dung mountain personally later. This smell is just the appetizer. Moore had set things up beautifully. Tables, chairs, and cookware requisitioned from every house in town. Stone fire pits with clay pots still bubbling. The man's an organizational genius when his life depends on it. The farmers parted like the sea as I walked through, terrified, confused, anxious. I hadn't given them new land assignments, hadn't set a tax rate, hadn't told them when they could plant. It's prime farming season, and their lord has them collecting poop instead of planting crops. They're panicking internally but too scared to say anything. And the lunch I was serving them? Half a pound of dry rations, thick bread slices, oat porridge with vegetable soup. Enough food to feed their entire family for a day back home. I could see the thought in their eyes. Is this a last meal? Are we being executed tomorrow? No, you beautiful paranoid idiots. You're being fed so you can work harder. But go ahead and enjoy your existential dread with that porridge. It adds flavor. The dung pile so far. About 10 tons collected this morning, more coming. I need at least 100 tons. Cow dung, horse dung, pig dung, human dung. I am an equal opportunity poop collector. One healthy ox produces 20 to 30 pounds of dung per day. Multiply that by 80 oxen, add every other animal and person in town, mix in rotting straw and river mud, ferment for 2 weeks minimum. And that, my friends, is how a lord builds an empire. One pile of poop at a time. I inspected the communal lunch. Not bad, actually. Bean rations, black bran bread, thick oat porridge, boiled clean water. Scythe had prepared the same meal for me because I meant what I said. I eat what they eat. I wolfed down that terrible black bread without chewing because if you actually taste it, you'll wish you hadn't. While everyone else was still savoring their feast, I grabbed more and marched straight to Poop Mountain. What followed was the worst 2 hours of both my lives. The smell hit us like a physical wall. Moore turned white. I turned green. Liquid feces was pooling everywhere. My stomach was doing backflips, trying desperately to return my lunch. But I clenched every muscle in my body, grabbed my tools, and waded in. 2 hours later, I'd built a perfect flat-ground composting pile, layered, packed, and sealed with wet mud for high-temperature internal fermentation. In 2 weeks, it'll break down into actual fertilizer with just a mild ammonia smell instead of this. When I finally staggered out, I had poop splattered on my clothes, my pants, my soul. My eyes were bloodshot. My face had gone from green to purple. I sprinted to the nearest water source and scrubbed myself raw. Then I sniffed my arm. I had been marinated. That smell was not coming off anytime soon. I have been seasoned by feces. I am a poop-marinated lord. I told Moore to make every future compost pile follow my exact method. Any farmer who does this job gets 2 extra pounds of wheat as a bonus. Moore started to say, "My lord, those peasants are used to this smell, they literally live with." But then he looked at my purple to blue face and swallowed those words like a smart man. Moving on to something that doesn't smell, technology. I went to inspect the livestock pens and farm equipment, then summoned Skagtown's blacksmith. His name is Lax, middle-aged, curly hair, massive beard, chest hair erupting from his open shirt, arms like iron bands. Classic blacksmith physique. These craftsmen have high social status because they're actually useful, unlike 90% of the population. I asked him about the farming tools. Most were bought from merchants. He mainly does repairs. His iron supply? 200 pounds total. That's his entire fortune, worth more than 8 oxen. He was visibly nervous I was going to confiscate it. Instead, I squatted down and drew a diagram in the dirt. A heavy plow, with wheels. Lax's eyes went wide. This thing would need over 30 pounds of iron. And wheels, you'd need the wheelwright Vicky too. I told him to build it, and I'd pay fair price. He tried to waive his labor fee, then hesitated and dropped this gem. But my lord, the church says all things are God-given. We must keep them as they are. To change is to walk toward hell. The church's technological suppression extends even here. Even to the most remote corner of the kingdom. These religious tentacles reach in and tell people that inventing things sends you to hell. No wonder this civilization is stuck in the Dark Ages. The church literally made innovation a sin. I stood up and looked Lax dead in the eye. Then tell their God to come say that to my face. Lax looked like I'd slapped him with a Bible. I dragged him to his workshop and told him to get started immediately. Call the wheelwright too. But as I walked away, something was bugging me. Something about the existing plow that didn't make sense. See, this land is wet. Heavy clay soil, high moisture content. My level 2 planting knowledge confirmed it. The current light plows can only scratch the surface, a shallow cut that barely loosens the topsoil. For this type of soil, you need a heavy plow that digs deep, flips the earth over, breaks up the clay. That's basic agricultural logic. And here's what's weird. Somebody in this world's history was smart enough to invent an iron plow. They had the metallurgy. They had the concept. But they made a light one. For wet, clay-heavy soil. That's like inventing an umbrella and making it out of tissue paper. If this land had dry, sandy soil, sure, light plow makes sense. But it doesn't. The natural conditions here should have produced a heavy plow. The light plow doesn't fit. It's like a foreign import that got copy-pasted onto the wrong continent. If someone had the brains to create iron farming tools, why would they make the wrong kind? Unless someone or something deliberately stunted agricultural development on this continent. I glanced back at that pathetic little plow one more time. That thing shouldn't exist here. It doesn't belong. It violates the logic of how civilizations develop technology to match their environment. Something is very, very wrong with this world's history. But that's a mystery for another day. Right now, I've got a heavy plow to build and approximately 90 more tons of poop to collect. Priorities. I followed Lax to his smithy to plan the heavy plow project. Quick economics lesson on this world. 1 gold coin buys 30 to 50 pounds of iron, depending on quality. My entire inheritance is about 20-something gold coins. Iron is basically medieval gold. Most of it goes to military equipment, then nobles, then merchants, and peasants get whatever scraps are left, which is almost nothing. Lax showed me his stockpile, 200 pounds of bargain bin iron, the cheap stuff at 51 pounds per gold coin. Full of impurities, but good enough for basic farm tools. I need 40 heavy plows. Each one needs at least 30 pounds of iron. That's 1,200 pounds minimum. Lax did the math faster than I expected for a guy whose job is hitting things with a hammer. Sir, even if we melt down every light plow in town, about 80 of them at 9 to 10 pounds each, that's only 900 pounds raw. After reforging losses, we'd be lucky to keep 60%. That's maybe 540 usable pounds. We're way short. For one brief, dark moment, I considered melting down Green's greatsword and armor. Then I decided he'd probably notice. That's when Lax mentioned the merchant ships at the dock might have iron for sale. Right, Maury? I marched down to the river with my entourage. Maury spotted us coming, and I could watch his soul leave his body from 50 meters away. He clearly thought I'd caught his witch friend and was coming to arrest him. I could practically see the gears spinning. Plan A, fall to knees, blame the witch for forcing him. Plan B, throw money at the problem. Plan C, deny everything and pray. He settled on, act casual, and walked up looking confused. When he found out I just wanted to buy iron, the relief nearly knocked him over. He wiped his forehead, the exact same nervous sweating move Moore always does. What is it with people sweating around me? Am I that scary? That don't answer that. Maury had 450 pounds of high-quality iron. The good stuff, 30 pounds per gold coin. Total price, 15 gold coins. That's most of my remaining cash. I thought for exactly 2 seconds, then pulled out a ruby from my coat. Bright red, gorgeous, about the size of an adult's thumbnail. This was my birth gift from the Duke, a magical gemstone that strengthens the wearer's body over time, helping ordinary people edge toward becoming transcendents. These things are almost never sold. Bankrupt nobles will sell their land, sell their horses, sell their dignity before parting with inherited gems. Their family heirlooms meant to potentially produce the next generation's knight. I tossed it to Maury like it was a candy. Red ruby. Makes weak people strong. Worth about 15 gold. Take it. Maury caught it, and his pupils shrank to pinpoints. Then he did something unexpected. He straightened up, got all formal, and pushed the ruby back toward me. Honored Lord, your finances are tight, but I have no doubt in your leadership. This territory has enormous potential. Please allow me to donate these 450 pounds of iron as an investment in your friendship. I absolutely cannot accept this gem. As he leaned in to return the ruby, he caught a whiff of something. His nose twitched. He glanced at the blacksmith and carpenter behind me, assuming they were the source. Then he got closer and realized, no, the smell was coming from me, from my skin, from my very being. I had spent 2 hours wrestling a mountain of feces earlier, and no amount of scrubbing had fully erased the evidence. I could see the exact moment Maury's brain went. I was about to pledge my fortune to a lord who smells like he bathed in a latrine. Have I made a terrible mistake? Look, man, some lords wear perfume. I wear eau de composted manure. It's called commitment to agriculture. You wouldn't understand. I took the ruby back. Look, I'm sentimental. I've worn that thing since birth. But I was fully prepared to trade it. Sentimentality doesn't build plows. Thankfully, Maury decided to just give me 450 pounds of premium iron as a friendship investment. Smart man. I told him straight, I don't take handouts. I'll pay you back in other ways. No charity, no favors, no one gets leverage over me. But investments? Investments I'll accept all day long, especially when I'm broke. I offered him 2 years of zero commercial tax in Skagtown. Then I casually dropped. Also, I need 100 oxen and 100 draft horses. Before spring ends, Maury nearly choked. He could maybe scrape together 50 oxen from the nearest territory, Count Khan's land, 100 miles away through rapids and rocks. 100 was impossible in that time frame. But draft horses? Those he could source. Final deal, 50 oxen and 100 draft horses. Cost, somewhere between most of my money and all of my money plus some I don't have yet. Do I care? No, you can't build an empire penny pinching. Maury watched me toss that ruby around earlier like it was a grape and decided this crazy lord was worth betting on. But I could tell something was eating at him, probably connected to that which situation I'm pretending not to notice. He's on my radar now, not as a threat, more like an interesting puzzle piece. I hauled 150 pounds of iron back to town alongside Lax and the wheelwright Vicky, each of us bear-hugging a crate. With this new batch plus the melted-down light plows, we barely have enough iron for 40 heavy plows. Lax and Vicky started working through the night. This is the key technology unlock, the kind of breakthrough that can jumpstart an entire civilization. One invention, properly deployed, and everything changes. The farmers finished their daily poop collection, the composting was on schedule, and Moore had everything running smoothly. 2 more days, and all the fertilizer processing would be done. 9 days in Skagtown. 7 days grinding planting skill. 2 days reorganizing everything. Mudwater seed selection, plow redesign, composting protocol. All the pieces are moving. But something else was nagging me. Maury had hinted about the mountains. The witch appeared searching for someone. Something's hiding up in those peaks, and as the lord of this territory, I should probably know what. Tomorrow, I go hunting. I woke before dawn on day 9, went to my personal chest, and pulled out the bow. Oh, let me tell you about the bow. The body is made of bloodwood, a supernatural material that's supposedly soaked in dragon's blood. It radiates courage. Literally. Even a coward gripping a bloodwood branch would charge into battle screaming. The bowstring is woven from sea monster tendons, processed through some arcane tanning technique. You could hack at it with a sword and not cut through on the first swing. And mounted on each tip, 2 diamond eggs the size of pigeon eggs. Not decorative. These enchant the bow and arrows with armor-piercing force. Pull weight: 150 to 200 pounds. That's like one-arm deadlifting a grown man every time you draw. Its penetrating power is roughly equivalent to a heavy sniper rifle, though less accurate and shorter range. So basically a magical anti-tank weapon shaped like a bow. It's a replica of the original Crackscale ancestors' legendary dragon-piercing bow, worth easily triple-digit gold coins. Every noble in the kingdom would kill for it, but I can't sell it. If my dad spotted his family's signature weapon at a pawn shop, he'd skin me alive. I wasn't supposed to get this thing at all. But right before I left home, the old duke called me to the family vault, told me to take the bow off the wall. Then he told me the Crackscale family motto, cleave through thorns. That ancient, possibly senile, probably forgot my birthday every year old man. Maybe he didn't completely forget about me after all. All right, time to cleave some thorns. The mountains are waiting. Day 9. I tied my hair up with a headband, threw on hunting gear, strapped the bow to my back, and looked in the nearest reflective surface. Magnificent, like a lion that just got a haircut. Very rugged adventurer who also knows crop rotation. Green and Aaron ditched their heavy armor for mobility clothes. I had Aaron bring an iron shield though, you never know. Then I rode to Skagtown and told Moore to assemble the guards. We're going into the mountains. Moore's brain turned to porridge. You, my lord, you could have warned me. Why? Were you going to stop me? His face cycled through grief, acceptance, and what I can only describe as romantic hatred. This man has never loved and despised anyone as much as he loves and despises me right now. Those people are dangerous, he pleaded. So I should just let dangerous people roam my territory doing whatever they want. Moore looked like he wanted to cry, die, and resign simultaneously. Here's the thing. Through all my insane behavior this past week, Moore has silently accepted everything. Farming revolution? Fine. Poop mountains? Fine. Feeding slaves noble quality meals? Sure, whatever. But this is where he drew the line. The mountains genuinely terrify him. So naturally, I made him come with me. He turned to stone. Eyes went dead. Soul departed his body. A man who has accepted his fate. I took 20 of the 30 guards and left 10 to keep order in town. The production schedule runs itself now. The managers can handle supervision for a day. I asked the guards if they had mountain experience. Turns out the locals regularly went into the forest for wood even before I arrived. That's actually the whole basis of my "you've been stealing my resources" shakedown. These guys know the terrain well enough to stay alive if they're careful. Now here's an important side quest. The game's Life's Breath mode maps my territory as Origin Farm, but most of the map is blank. I have to physically go places to reveal them. And when I do, the system tags everything. Lumber zones, quarries or veins, hunting grounds, swamps, rivers. It's basically a resource radar. Wherever I walk, if there's a mine nearby, it gets marked automatically. This does not mean I have satellite surveillance or can affect reality through the game. The system is strictly informational. And annoyingly, it only counts land I've personally worked as farmland. Those thousands of acres the peasants farm don't count because I didn't touch them. The game is very literal about ownership, but the resource scanning alone is worth this hike. I need to find iron deposits, and stumbling around randomly would take months. With the game radar, I just need to walk past them. Some historical context while we climb. About 130 years ago, the Conqueror Emperor created a law saying anyone who pioneered wild land could own it and become a lord. 20 years of incredible expansion followed. Then the Conqueror sailed into the Dark Sea, got sick, his fleet got wrecked by a storm, and he never came back. Without his iron fist, every noble and kingdom immediately swooped in and stole all the land those pioneers had spent 2 decades developing. The powerless settlers couldn't fight back. The 3 Grand Dukes eventually returned from the sea with their surviving forces and stabilized things, but the damage was done. Nobody pioneered anything after that. Civilizations just stopped expanding and started fighting each other over what already existed. Skagtown is the product of that stagnation. Slow passive growth from a few hundred people to almost 2,000, spread across tens of thousands of acres, over several decades. Pathetically inefficient. But that's what happens when an entire continent collectively decides. Exploration is for suckers. As we hiked deeper, Moore was wheezing like a dying walrus. The man weighs close to 200 pounds, and this is basically CrossFit for him. Please, my lord, he gasped between breaths. There are killers in these hills. Your safety is paramount. You don't need to risk yourself personally. If something in this mountain can kill 20 guards and 2 combat knights, I said casually, then it can kill me too, and that's fine. Moore's sweat production doubled. I think he's actually losing weight in real time. Tell me about the mountain people, I said. He admitted he didn't know much. Some had been living up here since before his father died, and he inherited the job. Dangerous beasts, treacherous terrain, and somewhere in the mix, fugitives and outlaws strong enough that nobody sane would go looking for them. Which is exactly why we're going looking for them. The map in my head was slowly lighting up with every step. Somewhere in these mountains were, or veins, fugitives, possibly a missing witch girl, and whatever secrets this basin had been hiding for decades. Time to find out what my backyard actually looks like. We hadn't even reached the hunter camp when I felt it. That prickly sixth sense you develop when someone's pointing an arrow at your skull. I'm trained in archery. When a bowstring is aimed at you, your body knows. Aaron sensed it too. Unnatural rustling in the bushes. Someone was trying to circle behind us. He grabbed his shield and locked into position on my left. Green's eyes went razor sharp, sword out, standing back to back with me. Triangle formation. The guards, bless their slow reflexes, eventually noticed 2 combat knights going into battle mode and thought, oh, we should probably be scared too, do you? Want to be enemies with your lord? I called out. A voice from the trees. We don't have a lord, you do now. Bowstrings creaked tight all around us. Fun times. I didn't draw my weapon. Just stood there, hands free, radiating the energy of a man who genuinely does not care if you shoot. You want to fight combat knights? You can't win. Come out. Kneel. I'll forgive everything. Silence. Then whispering. Heated debate happening in the bushes. Someone wanted to submit, someone didn't. Finally, a young hunter stepped out to negotiate. We just want to be left alone. We'll give you our hunting catches if you don't bother us. He stopped mid-sentence because I was staring at him with the weirdest expression. See, I recognized this face. Not from real life, from a gacha card. This was Dota. My 2-star pull. 5 E-rank stats. Tracking skill. Keen eyesight. He was standing right in front of me, real as dirt, trying to negotiate his independence from the guy who literally owns his soul in a mobile game. Just swear loyalty to me, I said. His brain crashed. What? On this land, I have the right to claim everything. Everyone here is my subject. Tell me your name. My apostle, Dota Gurney. Found him. 3 pulls, 3 confirmed real people. The game isn't random. It's pulling from actual humans in my territory. Good to know. Fun fact, after I recruited my first apostles, the game unlocked a bunch of new modes. Battle simulation, dispatch combat, apostle warbands, destiny expedition. All useless right now since I have 7 apostles and 0 army. But it's nice knowing the features are there, waiting for me to stop farming poop and start conquering things. Take me to everyone else in these mountains, I told Dota. I'll decide who gets to serve me based on how they behave. Meanwhile, in a completely separate storyline I knew nothing about, Shasta the witch had followed Gwyneth's mother's directions into the deep forest. She carried a bag of peas. Apparently Gwyneth's family had been secretly leaving food at a specific crooked chestnut tree by a stream. A dead drop for their exiled daughter. Shasta hung the peas on the tree and waited. 1 full day. Nothing. She slept in the freezing mountain night, which powers keep you from dying of cold, at least. Day 2. A small, ragged figure crept to the tree. A skinny girl in torn clothes, standing on tiptoes to grab the bag, dumping the peas into her shirt like a makeshift apron. She looked around nervously and scurried away. Shasta followed her to a crude shelter, branches and leaves barely holding together. Not something a child could build alone. Someone had helped her at some point. This girl had been living alone in the wilderness for over a year. She was maybe 12 or 13, surviving on secret food drops and whatever the forest offered. Shasta stepped into view. Gwyneth, the girl jumped so hard she spilled all her peas. Her dirty little face twisted with terror. I'm Shasta. We're the same. Don't be afraid. Shasta let black smoke curl from her hands. Proof. You're a witch? Gwyneth screamed, backing away like Shasta was the monster, not a rescuer. So are you. And no, I'm not. The girl was crying now. I don't have evil powers. I'm not possessed by demons. Go away. She turned to run. Shasta caught her, wrapped her arms around the terrified child, and held on tight. It's okay. You'll eat bread every day. Sleep in a real bed. No more rain. No more cold. Nobody will burn you. We weren't born on this earth just to suffer. We didn't awaken just to die. And somewhere down the mountain, I was cheerfully cataloging or deposits on my game map and threatening hunters into feudal submission, completely oblivious to the fact that a rescue mission and a heartbreaking reunion were happening a few miles above my head. 2 stories. 1 mountain. 0 coordination. Classic Skag town. The hunters folded faster than a wet napkin. They had maybe 15 fighters total. I had 20 guards and 2 combat knights. But I didn't even need to fight. I just needed to point out one simple fact. I control Skag town. They need Skag town. No town access means no grain, no cloth, no iron tools. Their cushy mountain lifestyle, which is honestly better than most farmers down below, depends entirely on trade with the settlement I now own. Checkmate without drawing a single weapon. I gave them 1 month to pack up and move to Skag town. They weren't happy. I wasn't asking. Then I had Dota, my newly found 2-star apostle, now officially sworn to me. Spill everything about the mountain's most wanted residents. First, dirty doctor, Garland. Mysterious healer everyone respects. Nobody knows where he came from. Sounds useful. Second, Jet, the deserter. Ran away from a battlefield, nowhere left to go, ended up here. Standard fugitive backstory. Third, Dick, the traitor knight. A former combat knight who killed the noble he served. Every aristocrat in the land wants him dead. Somehow wandered into these mountains. Extremely dangerous. Fourth and most interesting, Borg, the great bandit. This guy is legendary. He murdered a noble, stole all his wealth, and distributed it to the common people like some deranged medieval Robin Hood. The heartwarming epilogue? After Borg left, another noble showed up and hanged every single peasant who received the stolen money. Wonderful. Truly a feel-good story. Dota warned me, don't approach Borg. He's very dangerous. Then a beast roared from deep in the mountains, and everyone went tense. Magical beasts. Basically supercharged predators that even groups of hunters avoid. They have their own territories and mostly leave humans alone. But when they don't, casualties. I pushed Dota further. There's one more person, isn't there? He hesitated. I stared him down with my best Archer Lord intimidation eyes until he cracked. The last one is the Doom Witch, Gwyneth, AHHA. So there is a witch in my mountains. Mystery solved. That's who Shasta was looking for. Everything connects. Now here's the part one didn't witness but pieced together later, and it's not great for me. Borg the Great Bandit visited Dick the Traitor Knight in his mountain cabin. A dragon has entered the mountain, Borg announced. By dragon, he meant me. Charming. He ranted at Dick. This dragon will send his claws after us. The weak hunters will submit. You, me, Jet, the doctor, the little witch. None of us will be safe. He'll sell the witch girl to the church. Are you going to watch a child burn? Dick, who apparently has the patience of a saint. What do you want from me? Kill the dragon. Before he destroys our paradise, your madness is getting worse, Borg. And it is getting worse. Dick laid it out. Borg has nightmares every night. He dreams about all the peasants who died because of his generosity. He believes he strangled his own mother. The man is deeply, profoundly broken, and his solution to every problem is murder the noble and give stuff to poor people, ignoring the fact that this exact plan already got an entire village executed. Dick refused to help. He pointed out that even if Borg killed me, my father, the Grand Duke, would flatten Skag Town in revenge. Everyone would die. Again. Because of Borg. Again. Borg's master plan, delivered with full crazy eyes. I'll kill Roman Crackscale, and that fat pig more. Give all their grain and gold to the poor. Divide the land among the people. They'll follow me to kill more dragons. Kill all the dragons. Once every noble is dead, everything will be fine. Dick. No. Borg went cold. Waited. Dick silently gripped his rusty old knight's sword. Not to fight, just holding on to something. Borg left. Dick sat alone, pulled out a tarnished silver necklace, stared at it, and sighed. So to summarize my current situation, I'm building plows, collecting poop, and teaching kids math, while a mentally unstable Robin Hood is plotting to assassinate me using magical beasts. The one guy who could stop him just said, "Not my problem." And there's a traumatized witch child hiding in a bush somewhere eating peas. And I don't know any of this. I'm just out here vibing with my gotcha game, thinking, wow, this mountain has great iron deposits. Being a lord is wonderful. You're always the last to know when someone wants to kill you. While Shasta was apparently having the world's most heartbreaking therapy session with little Gwyneth up in the mountains, which I didn't know about, I was doing my thing, collecting weirdos. Dota led me to the dirty doctor's place first. And let me tell you, the nickname is earned. This guy, Garland, had a beard that might have been white once, but was now a color I can only describe as biological hazard brown. His whole body looked like it hadn't seen water since the previous century. But his little mountain cabin was stuffed with bottles, crushed herbs, insect specimens floating in alcohol, and a crucible. A real medieval pharmacy. Then I spotted something interesting on his shelf. A faith medallion. The 33 divine seats design. Intricate lines connecting 33 dots in a sacred pattern. Church issue. Your church, aren't you? I said. Not a question. Dota's jaw hit the floor. He'd known Garland his whole life and never figured this out. Moore started sweating so hard I thought he'd dehydrate. In his head, he was screaming. A witch and a church agent? What else is hiding in my town? Is there a dragon under the bakery? Garland didn't flinch. Old guy just sat there with surprisingly sharp eyes, watching me rummage through his stuff like I owned the place. Which I do. I'd suspected since day one. The way he organized his equipment was textbook church style. And only the church has a real medical education system. Their healing knowledge is leagues ahead of anyone else's. They even have supernatural healing powers through divine arts. Although, honestly, their non-magical medicine is absolutely barbaric. Some of their treatments are worse than the diseases. But in a world where didn't kill the patient qualifies you as an excellent doctor, Garland is a certified genius. You left the church? I asked. Want to work for me? Church doctrine says servants of the gods must serve for life, he replied in a creaky voice. So, no resignation letter option? He didn't respond. Is this considered going AWOL? Long pause. I haven't abandoned my faith in the gods. I only left the institution. That's actually a fascinating theological position, believing in the gods while rejecting their only authorized franchise on earth. Like loving pizza, but refusing to enter any pizzeria. Now here's my philosophy on the whole religion thing, and it's pretty simple. If the gods are real and powerful and care about their followers, then why is the world still this miserable? Why aren't they helping? Why are people starving while the church collects tithes? If the gods are real but don't have world-changing power, then why should I fear them? If the gods are real but don't care about believers, then I could burn every church to the ground and they wouldn't blink. And if the gods don't exist, well, then the church is just a really successful scam with swords. Any way you slice it, I don't owe them respect. I gave your gods a chance to impress me. They weren't useful. So when I start swinging, they better not get in the way, or I'll swing at them too. I was about to recruit Garland with my signature blend of threats and career opportunities when SCECH. A blood-curdling shriek ripped through the mountain forest. Not human. Not entirely beast either. Something between a pig being murdered and the earth itself screaming. Everyone went rigid. Somewhere up in those trees, something very bad was happening. And based on the timeline I reconstructed later, it was happening right next to where Shasta had just found little Gwyneth. Oh, did I mention that also happening right now? Borg the crazy bandit had apparently decided today was the day to execute his master plan. Lure a magical beast toward me and stage my assassination as an animal attack. Except the beast didn't come toward me. It went toward the witches. So let's take stock of my mountain excursion. I've got a secret church doctor, a hunter-turned-apostle, a sweating fat man, 20 nervous guards, 2 combat knights, a mad bandit trying to orchestrate my murder, a deserter hiding somewhere, a traitor knight who won't pick a side, and 2 witches about to get mauled by a magical beast. And I'm just standing here thinking, huh, that scream sounded pretty close. Should probably check that out. Welcome to the worst field trip in feudal history. Birds exploded out of the forest like someone set off fireworks in a chicken coop. That death scream from earlier cut off suddenly, like someone unplugged a speaker mid-song. Then the entire mountain went berserk. Roaring, howling, beast calls echoing from every direction. Moore was vibrating like a human earthquake, sweat literally visible pouring from his skin. "My lord, please can we leave now, please?" I asked Green about that scream. Wild boar. Killed instantly. A magical beast-class mountain boar. Something even Green and Aaron admitted they couldn't take down that cleanly in full armor. Whatever killed it was a high-tier transcendent. 1 strike. Dead. No struggle. That's scary good. Moore was practically clawing at my sleeve. Who cares who killed it? Could be the traitor knight. Could be the deserter. Let's just go. Then one of my guards outside screamed. Beast. Huge shadow incoming. Everything went to chaos. Guards and hunters panicking, stumbling over each other. I stepped out of Garland's cabin and bellowed from the deepest part of my lungs. Defensive line. Now, that shut everyone up for about 2 seconds. Long enough to see what was coming. A brown bear. 3 meters tall. Charging up the slope at absolutely ridiculous speed. 30 meters in 4 or 5 seconds. This thing was a furry freight train with murder on its mind. Defensive line, I shouted again. The guards fumbled their shields into something resembling a formation. Didn't matter. The bear hit them like a bowling ball through wet tissue paper. 4 or 5 guards went flying. They hadn't even braced properly. When you're scared and get hit by a 1-ton bear, your body just says, sure, I'll fall down now. Total chaos. Aaron charged in. Shield first, he slammed it into the bear's skull, planted his right foot on an exposed rock for leverage, and with every muscle screaming, stopped the bear's charge dead. His face went crimson. His whole body was shaking. But he held. Green came in from behind. Mountain copper steel sword overhead, plunged it into the bear's neck. Should have been a kill shot. But the bear jerked. He couldn't fully commit the thrust, and the blade only went in about 10 centimeters before sliding out. Deep gash, bone visible, but not lethal. The bear went ballistic. So I did what any reasonable lord would do. I swung my legendary crack-scale bow, the priceless dragon scale-piercing family heirloom, like a baseball bat directly into the bear's face. The blunt impact stunned it cold. Its head snapped sideways, teeth loosened. My ancestors used this bow to nearly slay dragons. I used it to bonk a bear on the noggin. The first crack-scale duke is rolling in his grave. The hunters had scattered and drawn their short bows, but couldn't shoot. Too much friendly fire risk with me standing right in the middle of the mayhem. Green. Aaron. Pull it away from here. I yelled, backing off. Aaron rolled sideways, disengaging. Green, because Green is insane, leaped onto the bear's back, drove his sword straight down into its spine, sinking it a good 20+ centimeters, then flipped off and ripped the blade out as he landed. The bear screamed and charged after them. Perfect, clear line of sight. The hunters fired. Their arrows were garbage, wood tips, stone tips, barely scratching through the fur. Mosquito bites. My turn. I raised the bow. Bloodwood body. Sea monster sinew string. Diamond-tipped arrows. 200 pounds of draw weight. I pulled until my arms screamed, aimed, and released. The sound was almost beautiful, a vicious whistle cutting through the mountain air. The arrow punched entirely through the bear's hide and disappeared inside its body. 80 centimeters of metal-tipped shaft, gone. Like pushing a pin into a cushion. The bear staggered, shrieking. I knocked another arrow. And another. And another. 5 shots total. Every single one buried completely inside this monster. Its organs were getting shredded from the inside. My right arm went numb, and I finally lowered the bow. The bear was still alive, barely, dragging itself in agony. I grabbed a guard's iron-tipped spear, and together with Aaron and Green, we finished it from a safe distance. Spears through the throat and brain. Done. I stood over the corpse, breathing hard. This thing was a treasure chest. Bear gallbladder and heart are worth a fortune, can strengthen normal humans, and cure diseases. Noble exclusive delicacies. Then Dota knelt down to inspect the body, and his face went pale. My lord, it reeks of beast frenzy grass. Beast frenzy grass is basically meth for animals. Makes predators go into uncontrollable rage. It's extremely rare, and there's no way a normal person could feed it to a magical beast without getting eaten first. Dota connected the dots immediately. Only one person in these mountains had the skills and the insanity to drug a magical bear and send it toward a specific target. Borg, the great bandit. The lunatic tried to assassinate me with a weaponized bear. Dota told me everything. How Borg's been losing his mind. How he sees all nobles as dragons to be slain. How he'd been ranting about killing me and distributing my wealth to the poor. I looked at the forest. Somewhere in those trees, a madman was watching. Probably disappointed his bear delivery didn't finish the job. Not a single one of them escapes, I said quietly. My right arm was still tingling from the bowstring. Bear blood was pooling at my feet. And somewhere in my brain, the game was probably trying to give me hunting experience points. But I wasn't thinking about experience right now. I was thinking about how to hunt a madman. I split my forces. Aaron took a squad and swept west. Green grabbed Dota and went tracking Borg. I kept a group with me and pushed deeper into the forest. Green and Dota made a solid team. Dota's tracking skill was the real deal. Broken twigs, displaced leaves, crushed debris. He read the forest floor like a book. Someone passed through here. Agitated. Kept looking around. Sloppy trail. Borg. The maniac was out there somewhere, probably muttering about dragons and justice. Green, being green, asked Dota. So can you beat this legendary bandit? Dota gave him a look. Can you? Green grinned. I heard Borg was maybe tier 3 or 4 back in his prime, and that was 20 years before I was even born. So really, I've given him a 20-year head start to become worthy of fighting me. Hopefully he's used that time wisely. Dota's eye twitched. This man's confidence is a medical condition. But Green wasn't stupid about it. I can handle him one-on-one, but he knows this mountain and I don't. That's where you come in. Keep me from walking into traps. Fair enough. They disappeared into the woods together. Meanwhile, Borg was stumbling through the forest like a broken toy, muttering to himself, kill the dragon. Kill all the dragons. Once the dragon dies, everything will be fine. The bear hadn't worked. He was getting more unhinged, more dangerous. And then there was the situation I stumbled into personally. Aaron had found the witches first. He'd positioned himself in front of Shasta and the girl, Gwyneth, the missing witch everyone's been looking for, and delivered his line with maximum stoneface energy, Lord's orders. Nobody leaves. Shasta had apparently just killed an 800-pound magical deer with 2 short swords and witch magic. She was not in the mood for a roadblock. Move, she snarled. No, you can't stop me. You're what, tier 1? Tier 2? You haven't even reached your peak. I've killed tier 5 knights. Aaron, completely unmoved. You're strong. But you can't defy the Lord's command. We will enforce the law. Spears rose from the bushes around them. Hunters knocked arrows. The message was clear. She was surrounded. Shasta crossed her blood-stained short swords over her chest. Black smoke billowed from the blades, swirling like something out of a nightmare. Want to test my swords? And that's when she felt it. That prickling, hair-raising sensation of being targeted. She looked up. Through the dense canopy, on higher ground, she could just barely make out a silhouette. Tall, strong, drawing a massive bow. A diamond-tipped arrow aimed directly at her skull, glinting in the filtered light. That was me. Want to test my arrow? Look, I'm not going to pretend I had perfect information here. All I knew was, Aaron found 2 unknowns. One of them radiating enough killing intent to make the air taste like metal, waving around smoke-enchanted swords, and threatening my knight. Behind the scary sword lady, I could see a small, terrified girl clutching herself and crying. That must be Gwyneth, the Doom Witch, Dota mentioned. The one Shasta had been searching for. Everything clicked together. The mysterious witch in Skagtown at night. Maury's nervous sweating. The search for someone in the mountains. It was all connected. But right now, explanations could wait. I had a 200-pound legendary bow aimed at a woman who just claimed she'd killed tier 5 transcendents. My knight was one wrong move from a bloodbath, and somewhere behind me a lunatic bandit was trying to summon more drugged-up wildlife. Shasta stared up at me. I stared down at her. The forest was dead silent except for Gwyneth sobbing and the distant echo of beasts still rampaging deeper in the mountains. Nobody moved. This is fine. Totally normal Tuesday in Skagtown. I put my bow away. Not because I was being friendly. That thing weighs over 100 pounds at full draw. You can't hold a negotiation while one-armed deadlifting a refrigerator. A witch, coming to MY land to kidnap my people? You must be tired of living, Shasta fired back. This child is also a witch. I don't care if she's a witch, a fairy, or a talking horse. Everything on my territory is my property, and you want to take my property? Really? Shasta laughed bitterly. Oh, you'd accept a witch as your subject? Great. I'll invite the entire witch forest to come visit. Are you threatening me? You started the jokes, Roman Crackscale. Let my sister and me leave, or I'll have the witch forest tear this place apart. Here's the thing. I didn't buy her bluff for a second. The witch forest is a secret society of witches hiding from the church. They spend their lives running from inquisitors like cockroaches from a lamp. If they had the guts to mobilize an army over every missing member, they'd have been discovered and exterminated decades ago. No way they'd risk exposure for one girl and one loudmouth with smoky swords. But let me explain why I was being so stubborn about this kid. The moment I saw Dota in real life and confirmed that apostles are drawn from actual people on my territory, everything clicked. My gotcha pool pulls from my own population. The higher the star rating, the rarer and more talented the person. Aaron, 4 stars. Green, 3 stars. Both trained knights, best of their generation. Dota, 2 stars. Decent hunter, above average. Everyone else, 1 star. Regular folks. Now consider, witches are extraordinarily rare. A spontaneous supernatural awakening in a random girl? That's lottery tier genetics. Gwyneth is almost certainly a high-star apostle, possibly the highest in my entire territory. Maybe even higher than Aaron. Let this woman walk away with my potential 6-star? Over my decomposing body. The meat stays in the pot. The riches stay in the family. I'll pull her card eventually. You have no right to negotiate with me, I told Shasta. The witch forest has no right either. I forbid you from taking anyone from Skagtown. My people stay on my land. Non-negotiable. Shasta's whole body started smoking. You think being a lord makes you stronger than high-tier knights? If you're confident you can kill everyone here, why haven't you done it already? People would just think we died to the beasts, she flinched. Because I was right. She couldn't kill all of us without witnesses escaping. And if even one person got out and reported a witch murdered a Crackscale heir, it wouldn't just be the church hunting them anymore. The nobles would join in. The two most powerful forces on this continent, who normally hate each other, would unite to destroy the witch forest. Game over. She knew it. I knew she knew it. She knew I knew she knew it. But she was still wrestling with herself. Her grip on those smoky short swords kept tightening. She was calculating. Could she grab Gwyneth and escape before Aaron's shield caught her? Could she outrun my arrows through dense forest? Aaron stepped in front of me, shield raised. Perfect defensive posture. My human wall. Meanwhile, Shasta was imagining horrific scenarios about what a depraved noble might do with a young girl. She had me pegged as a medieval monster. In her mind, leaving Gwyneth with me was condemning the child to unspeakable things. Lady, I just want to add her to my roster. My gotcha roster. This is about stats and star ratings. I'm not a villain, I'm a gamer. But I couldn't exactly explain that, could I? The hunters and guards could feel the tension crackling. Some of the hunters were having second thoughts about their brand new loyalty to me. We just swore allegiance, and now we're about to fight a witch? We don't even have salt, because apparently in this world, salt is anti-witch ammunition and it costs more than they can afford. The standoff stretched. Neither of us would blink. Then, from deep in the mountains, AWO, a wolf howl, followed by another, and another. Both Shasta and I went slightly pale at the same time. Because somewhere in those trees, a cackling madman was screaming, "Kill the dragon! Kill them all!" Borg was still out there. And he was sending more drugged-up magical beasts our way. Great. I'm in a Mexican standoff with a smoke witch, babysitting a crying child. My best knight is tracking a lunatic through unfamiliar woods. And now there's a wolf pack incoming. Honestly, Tuesdays in Skagtown just hit different. One wolf. Fine. A magical wolf? Annoying. A whole pack of magical wolves, each one 2 meters long and weighing 200 pounds? Time to panic. Shasta tried to bolt with Gwyneth. I stepped out from behind Aaron's shield and went full ice-cold villain mode. You leave, I kill Gwyneth. Yeah, I said it. I'm not proud of it. But here's my math. If Shasta runs with the girl, she and her witch smoke disappear into the forest while my men get turned into wolf chow. That's my people dying so she can escape. Absolutely not. I won't aim at you. I told her. I'll aim at the girl. And every hunter here will shoot with me. Shasta was shaking with rage. But she agreed. Because what choice did she have? Two options, I shouted. We both die, or we fight together and nobody dies. Pick. She picked fight. I went into commander mode. Hunters spread out for free fire. Shield guards up front as a wall. Aaron guarding Gwyneth in the back with orders to kill anyone who runs. I barely got 2 sentences of my inspirational speech out before the wolves hit us. They were smart. Saw the shield wall, didn't charge it, flanked left and right through the dense trees like gray ghosts. Terrain that slowed humans to a crawl meant nothing to them. Reinforce the flanks, I screamed, already drawing the bow. I fired, aimed for center mass, hit a back leg instead. But the arrow's power was so absurd it blew the leg clean through, and the wolf tumbled forward into a bush, howling like the world was ending. One down. The biggest wolf came from the right. Shasta, credit where it's due, launched herself into the air, wrapped her foot in black smoke, and drop-kicked at mid-leap. Both crashed to the ground. She bounced up instantly. The wolf did too. They went at each other like two blenders set to murder. Then one lunged at me. I flipped the bow around, from ranged weapon to blunt instrument, and smashed a full-grown wolf so hard it went airborne. 30 pounds of enchanted bloodwood to the skull will ruin anyone's day. A second wolf pounced. I jammed the bow sideways like a shield. Its head slipped between the bowstring and the frame, and it bit down on my ribs. My hunting clothes, basically soft armor, held. The teeth didn't get through. I looked down at this wolf clamped onto my torso, felt nothing but cold annoyance, and twisted the bow with raw strength. The bowstring, made from sea monster tendons, remember, sawed through the wolf's throat like a garrote wire. Fur, skin, windpipe, severed. Hot blood sprayed across half my body. I dropped the twitching corpse from under my arm and surveyed the battlefield. It was bad. My guards were getting demolished. 5 or 6 already down. Every wolf had arrows sticking out of it, but none were lethal shots, just enough to make them angrier. The wolves fought harder when wounded. My men fought worse. Useless. Absolutely useless. I was cursing myself for sending Green and Dota afterboard when I heard another howl. Close, from a different direction. The pack wolves howled back. The alpha. It hadn't even joined the fight yet. We were fighting the B team. My blood ran cold. Aaron started moving toward me, ready to grab me and run. Then, the alpha's howl turned into a scream of pain. Someone had attacked it. Green and Dota? No, the wolves suddenly started retreating, and from the tree-line, a figure burst out swinging a longsword. He cut down the first fleeing wolf in a single stroke, caught a second stumbling one, killed it just as fast. His sword work was brutal, efficient, experienced, decades of muscle memory in every swing. Shasta killed 2 more. I beat 2 to death with my bow like a caveman. The battle ended in under 3 minutes total, but felt like 3 hours. I was gasping, drenched in wolf blood from the chest down, arms trembling from overexertion. My guards were scattered, wounded, shell-shocked, but alive. Mostly. The mysterious swordsman walked toward us. Definitely not green, wrong fighting style, and way more savage power behind each cut. Then little Gwyneth broke free from Aaron and sprinted toward him. Uncle Dick, I stared at the man. Messy hair, stubble, weathered face, ruggedly handsome in a, I've seen some things and killed most of them, kind of way. Despite looking like a homeless Ronin, his presence radiated serious combat experience. Dick, the traitor knight. The man who murdered his own lord and has been hunted by every noble in the land ever since. He just saved my life. And the little witch girl he's been secretly protecting in the mountains just called him Uncle. This mountain trip has given me 1 tamed hunter, 1 church-defecting doctor, 1 standoff with a smoke witch, 1 assassination attempt by drug bear, 1 wolf pack battle, a poop-scented reputation, and now a wanted criminal who might be the most skilled fighter I've ever seen. I really should go on hikes more often. Dick, thanks for saving us. So how about you swear loyalty to me? The man looked at me like I'd suggested we go skydiving off a cliff. I'm Dick the traitor. I killed my own lord. There's nowhere on this continent that would have me. I spread my hands and grinned. Then let me be that place. He stared. I could literally see his internal dialogue. This kid is covered in wolf blood, smiling like he's at a garden party, and offering me a home? Does he not understand I murder employers? Is he suicidal? Is this a trap? Is there a table somewhere with an axe-wielding army underneath it? He hesitated. I've never considered something like that, but his eyes said yes. A decade of running, hiding, sleeping in mountain dirt, and someone just casually offered him a front door. He wanted it. Bad. Before I could close the deal, another figure walked up from the trees carrying a severed wolf head by the scruff. Just holding it, like a grocery bag. The deserter Jet. Plain-looking guy, medium build, wearing leather armor so filthy it had probably achieved sentience. Expression, 0. Emotion, -0. He'd killed the alpha wolf solo, without a scratch. At minimum, a tier 2 transcendent. Stronger than Aaron in raw combat. Hey Jet, nice work. Want a job? Dick gave me the most betrayed look. You say that to everyone. Yeah man, I'm recruiting. It's what I do. I see a strong person, I offer employment. I'm the world's most aggressive HR department. Jet's answer was refreshingly blunt. No, you sure? I could have you killed. He took a step back. Then, I'd run somewhere else. Points for honesty, I guess. Then Shasta cut in. I helped you kill those wolves. Now let Gwyneth go with me. I glanced at her sideways. When did I agree to that? Her jaw clenched. She had helped. Without her taking on 2 wolves simultaneously, my guards would have lost half their number even with Dick and Jet arriving. But a deal's a deal, and we never made one. Then more came crashing through the bushes, sweating, wheezing, having apparently dragged his 200-pound body through mountain terrain to bring reinforcements. 3 lightly wounded guards and hunters. He'd heard the wolf howls and came running. For a coward who's terrified of everything, that took real guts. The man passed his test today. His face lit up seeing me alive. Then he spotted Dick and Jet, and his smile went stiff. Then he saw the ragged girl behind Dick, and his smile flatlined completely. He recognized Gwyneth. The local farm official knows his townsfolk. Gwyneth recognized him too, and was more afraid of more than of me. She'd never met a lord before, but she'd grown up under the farm official's authority. She pressed deeper behind Dick like she was trying to merge with his spine. I sighed. Let's discuss who Gwyneth goes with. She comes with me, Shasta declared. See, this is why we can't have nice negotiations. I thought for a moment. I couldn't afford a fight. My forces were wrecked. Dick and Jet might not side with me. Shasta could probably escape alone even if she couldn't take the girl. Fine. Let Gwyneth decide for herself, Shasta agreed. Everyone turned to look at a terrified, filthy, malnourished 12-year-old girl who'd been living alone in the wilderness for 2 years. Gwyneth, Shasta said softly. Will you come with me? The girl looked at Shasta, then at me, then desperately at Dick, who turned his face away. At Jet, who also looked away. They were giving her the choice. No safety nets. And in that silence, standing in a blood-soaked clearing surrounded by wolf corpses and strangers arguing over her future, Gwyneth's whole life seemed to flash behind her eyes. I didn't know the details then. I learned them later. How her powers awakened and things started breaking around her. The house wall collapsing, her father's leg snapping, the oxen going berserk. How she cried to her mother, and how her father screamed that she was cursed. How on a freezing night, her mother hugged her one last time, hung a bag of peas around her neck, the family's food for 3 days, given to the daughter they were losing, and pushed her into the darkness. Go to the mountain. Never come back down. 2 years. Alone. Eating rabbits that ran into trees, wild berries, mushrooms she hoped weren't poisonous. She would have died that first winter if Dick hadn't given her a bearskin, Jet hadn't brought meat. Garland hadn't treated her illnesses, Borg hadn't taught her wilderness survival, the hunters hadn't shared supplies, and her mother hadn't secretly carried food up the mountain whenever she could scrape some together. Every single day, starving and freezing and alone, she never went home. Because her mother said, don't come down. And now everyone was asking, what do you want? Gwyneth looked up. Tears were streaming down her dirty face, cutting clean little tracks through the grime. For a moment, that filthy, broken little face almost looked bright. she said. I want to go home. The entire clearing went quiet. Shasta's face crumbled. Dick closed his eyes. Even I felt something crack inside my chest that I wasn't expecting. I'm a reincarnated gamer building a farming empire with a gotcha system in my brain. I calculated this girl's value in star ratings and strategic potential. But right then, she was just a kid who missed her mom. Damn it. Looks like I win, I told Shasta. Gwyneth didn't pick her. Didn't pick me either. She picked home. But home is in Skag Town, which is on MY land. Which means, scoreboard says Roman, 1, smoke lady, 0. Shasta looked like she'd swallowed a lemon sideways. Can't blame her. She trekked through mountains, slept in freezing woods, killed a magical deer, fought wolves, and endured my sparkling personality, all for nothing. If you'd made proper promises earlier, I might not have fought you over her, she muttered. So I made the promise. A big one. I swear a noble covenant. In the name of Crackscale, Gwyneth will suffer no persecution on my land. If the church finds her, I will not surrender her. As long as she serves me faithfully and doesn't betray me, I will protect her for life. No disgrace. No betrayal. Unconditional. Everyone went quiet. A noble covenant is basically a magical contract. Break it, and the king strips you of everything. Title, land, power, dignity. For a noble, breaking a covenant is worse than death, because at least death comes with honor. I meant every word, but let's be real. If I eventually pull Gwyneth's apostle card, this is just baseline employee benefits. I didn't even promise her a salary. Shasta was genuinely shocked. That's surprisingly decent for a noble. Then I went for the bonus round. Want to work for me too? Absolutely not. The church is hunting you everywhere. You could hide here. Things are about to change, she snapped, then immediately closed her mouth like she'd said too much. That set off alarm bells. Change how? She deflected with threats about Gwyneth's safety, which I brushed off. But I filed that slip-up away. Something big is brewing in the witch world. My name is Shasta. Nightmare Witch Shasta, she announced dramatically. Never heard of her. Which is probably good. Famous witches are dead witches. If you ever need somewhere to hide, I told her casually, come find me. Just be sneaky about it. I'm not ready to fight the church yet. She stared at me like I had two heads. Yet? You're planning to fight the church. Probably sounds insane from her perspective. From mine, it's just item number 47 on my to-do list, somewhere between build irrigation system and conquer neighboring territory. Then Aaron brought the casualty report. 3 guards dead, 8 wounded. For seriously, 1 permanently out of combat. Combined with the bear fight injuries, my 20-man expedition was basically halved. These guards are terrible soldiers, but they're all I've got, so complaining is pointless. I looked toward the distant forest. Any word from Green? Still hunting Borg. Still out there somewhere. Now, the part 1 learned much later about why Borg is the way he is. And honestly, it's not funny at all. 50 years ago, Viking-like raiders from the North Ice Sea attacked a coastal town called Reef Stone. They occupied it for months. They did what raiders do. 1 teenage girl survived the massacre of her family only to suffer the worst of it. 10 months later, she gave birth to a boy. She named him Borg. She was alone, traumatized, barely more than a child herself. But she raised him. She used every trick, every desperate measure to keep them both alive. She poured everything into this boy, this child of violence who she had every right to hate, but chose to love instead. By the time Borg was 10, she was dead, not even 25 years old. Worked herself into an early grave so her son could live. Left him nothing but the fact of his existence. Borg felt nothing. He was a kid. He didn't understand yet. He just moved on. Fought, stole, survived. Became a mercenary. Killed people for money. Normal Tuesday stuff in the medieval economy. Then, years later, as an adult hardened by war, the memories started coming back. Slowly at first, then flooding. That thin, fragile woman who carried him through impossible years. How she looked when she died. Dry, shriveled, like a stick of kindling burned from the inside. The toughest mercenary in his company started crying in his sleep. His comrades laughed at the grown man who cries for mommy. But Borg knew the truth. His axe wasn't sharp anymore. Something had broken open inside him that couldn't be closed. He quit, settled down, tried farming, and saw the same story everywhere. Exhausted mothers, starving families, children taken as slaves because their parents couldn't pay taxes. That thin silhouette kept overlapping with every suffering woman he saw. One night, he snapped, killed a viscount in his own castle, stole everything, gave it all to the local farmers, told them to hide it. Some of those farmers took the stolen goods straight to the next noble and reported him. The remaining families who kept quiet, all hanged, including a girl whose thin, swaying body reminded Borg of his mother one last time. That's when the madness became permanent. He's not evil. He's broken. He's a man drowning in guilt who keeps trying to save people and accidentally killing them instead. And now he's decided I'm the next dragon to slay, convinced that if he just murders enough nobles, everything will somehow be okay. It won't. It never is. But try explaining that to a man whose brain cracked in half 40 years ago and never healed. Green was still out there tracking him through the forest. I hope my idiot knight knew what he was walking into. Because this wasn't a bandit hunt anymore. It was a mercy killing waiting to happen. Dragon, come and duel me. A wild man burst out of the trees like nature itself spat him out. This was Borg. 20 years in the wilderness had erased every trace of civilization from him. Matted hair, shrunken frame, eyes burning with a fire that had nothing to do with sanity. My first concern wasn't him. It was Green. I sent Green to find you. Where is he? Green sheepishly emerged from the bushes. Here, my lord. He'd tracked Borg multiple times, but the old bandit kept slipping away. When Green realized Borg was heading straight for me, he rushed back, but arrived late. The shame on his face was real. First time I'd ever seen Green not being cocky. Then I saw Borg's weapon. A stone chip tied to a wooden stick with vines. This legendary bandit, this feared killer of nobles, this man who drugged a bear and summoned a wolf pack to assassinate me, was challenging me to a duel with a caveman club. I almost laughed. Almost. Then I noticed Moore had gone ghost white and was trembling violently. These two had history. Why do you call me a dragon? I asked. Borg's answer was actually poetic. You have no claws, yet you hold vast lands. You have no wings, yet you soar above everyone. You breathe no fire, yet all the world trembles before you. Who is more like a dragon than you? I'll be honest, for about 3 seconds, he almost had me convinced. Dick whispered, he has North Ice blood. That explained everything. North Ice raiders, Vikings, basically, worship warrior gods and believe in a hall of heroes where the glorious dead feast forever. Their mythology is full of dragon-slaying sagas. In Borg's crumbling mind, he wasn't a starving madman with a rock on a stick. He was a hero standing on a longship's deck, about to slay the beast. I tried reasoning with him. You'll just repeat history. You can't save drowning people by standing on the shore and pulling. They'll drag you in. Then I'll use your corpse as a bridge for everyone to walk across. Well, points for commitment. Every rational voice in my head said, have your knights restrain him, tie him up, problem solved. But something about this broken man swinging his pathetic stone axe at the sky, howling challenges at imaginary dragons while his old friends watched with pity in their eyes. I accept your duel, I said. Everyone stared at me. I took Aaron's shield and Green's sword. Come, Dragon Slayer, Borg ignited. In his eyes, war horns sounded across frozen seas. He charged like a berserker from legend. And I'll give him this, the man could fight. 20 years without proper food, training, or weapons, and he still moved like a veteran. Footwork that only comes from decades of real combat. He was reading my attacks, dodging, countering, using his garbage stick axe with terrifying precision. I'm a Tier 1 transcendent with enchanted steel, and this starving lunatic kept me working for 10 minutes. But bodies have limits. His was failing. The vine bindings loosened. The stone chip flew off. By the end, he was swinging a bare wooden stick against my shield. In his mind, he was on a storm-tossed sea, fighting a dragon under black skies, his mother watching proudly from the deck behind him. 3 days and 3 nights of glorious battle. He leaped one final time, everything he had left, and brought his war axe down on the dragon's neck. Bonk! A naked stick bounced off my shield. Borg collapsed. I caught him before he hit the ground. His body was freezing cold. His eyes were glazing over. I could tell, this wasn't just exhaustion. Something inside him was shutting down. 20 years of madness, guilt, and malnutrition had finally collected their bill. I called Gwyneth over. Told her what to say. Borg uncle. Borg uncle. She knelt beside him, tears streaming, holding his hand. His fingers twitched. Found hers. Gripped tight. Did I? Kill the dragon? The little witch girl, who'd survived 2 years alone in the mountains partly because this broken man taught her how, looked at me. I nodded. Yes, she sobbed. You did it, Borg uncle. You did it. A ghost of a smile. Then his face crumbled. Mama, I'm sorry. I killed you. Please forgive my cursed blood. Forgive my sins. You must have been in so much pain. He cried like a child. Not a warrior. Not a bandit. Not a legend. Just a boy who finally understood what his mother sacrificed 30+ years too late. He didn't want the Hall of Heroes anymore. That frozen paradise held no warmth. He wanted the only warmth he'd ever known. Thin arms wrapped around him, holding him like a newborn, the way she held him at the very beginning. I stood there holding my borrowed sword, blood-spattered and exhausted, watching a madman die in a little girl's arms on a mountain that nobody in the world cared about. I'm supposed to be funny about this. I can't. Some things just aren't. Borg's fingers went still. The forest was quiet. Even the birds had stopped. I am the dragon he fought. And I don't know if he was wrong. Borg died in Gwyneth's arms. Not from my sword, from exhaustion. 20 years of malnutrition, a chase with Green, and a 10-minute duel with me was more than his broken body could take. His heart just stopped. I buried him properly. Full burial, not a ditch. Was he insane? Absolutely. But looking at this world, the corruption, the cruelty, the church burning children alive, I'd argue Borg might have been the sanest person on this continent. His methods were catastrophic, his logic was shattered, but his anger? His anger was perfectly reasonable. I just happened to be the dragon he picked a fight with. After the burial, I offered Dick and Jet positions at my estate again. Both politely declined. Fine. They're on my territory. They're in my gotcha pool. Time is on my side. The meat stays in the pot. The mountain expedition was expensive. 3 guards dead. Multiple seriously wounded. My security force was essentially halved. But the loot? Thousands of pounds of wild meat. Bear, deer, boar, wolf. Enough for every person in Skagtown to get 3 pounds each. Not bad for a day that almost killed me twice. I also gained hunting skill experience from the kills, plus butchering knowledge downloaded into my brain. Handy. I gave the mountain hunters 10 pounds of meat each per family as a thank you for their cooperation, and told more to distribute the rest quickly before it spoiled. Then I brought Gwyneth home. Home. The word she chose. Back to Skagtown, back to her family, back to a life where she doesn't sleep in a stick hut eating peas and praying. I'd figure out the details later. For now, the mountain chapter was closed. Shasta slipped away without a goodbye. She went back to Maury's ship at the dock. From a hilltop, I watched the merchant fleet sail north along the Bro River, through the Silver Dragon Canyon Rapids, and out of sight. Witches. Merchants. The church. I chewed on those words. Pieces on a board I was just beginning to understand. Then I turned around and looked at my territory. Everyone in this world is an idiot. Nobles are idiots. Farmers are idiots in larger quantities. Kings and the church are the premium idiots, the idiots that other idiots look up to. And the key to smashing this entire stupid system? It's sitting in my brain. A mobile game, farming knowledge, and the absolute certainty that I'm right and everyone else is wrong. I will crush the old world. Rebuild it my way. New rules. New order. New everything. Will people bleed? Yes. Will nobles die? Hopefully lots. Will kings kneel? They'd better. Will the church's precious divine authority survive what's coming? Not a chance. The age is about to change, and I'm the one changing it. Now, the part one only learned about much, much later. After Shasta left my territory, a giant eagle descended from the sky onto Maury's ship. Not a regular bird. A magical beast big enough to rock the entire boat when it landed. And it talked. Turns out there's a whole witch hierarchy I knew nothing about. A prophet witch, who uses a magic mirror to scan the entire continent for newly awakened witches. A beast witch, who rides giant eagles. And they'd originally come for Gwyneth because the prophet detected her spiritual potential was off the charts, high witch material. But here's the bombshell. The witches are planning something called Operation Godkill. Operation God Kill. The witch forest isn't just hiding anymore. They're going on the offensive. Against the church. Against whatever gods the church worships. They believe if they can find and train enough powerful witches, they can strike at the divine power the church draws from. And apparently, somewhere in the northern lands, a new witch just awakened with spiritual power so insane that the prophet which called her a miracle individual. Every available witch is scrambling north to find her first. Problem? The church sensed it too. They're sending a 6-tier Dawn Knight, named Curtain plus 50 Witch Hunter Knights. A 6-tier Transcendent, leading a kill squad, racing the witches to get to this miracle girl first. Shasta jumped on the giant eagle and flew north to join the hunt. So while I'm down here composting manure and redesigning plows, the fate of witches versus gods is being decided somewhere up north, and the girl I just promised to protect with a noble covenant belongs to a species that's about to declare war on heaven. Cool. Great. Normal stuff. I'm sure this won't affect my farming schedule at all. Day 10. Morning fog. Breakfast time at Origin Estate. I sat at the head of the table with Aaron, Green, and my newest addition, Gwyneth, officially promoted to personal attendant. That's the fancy medieval term for follows me everywhere and gets fed. This kid was a wreck. Not in a bad way. In a feral child encountering civilization for the first time way. Yesterday, Scythe's team had grabbed her, power washed her like a muddy car, stuffed her in borrowed clothes, and shoved her into a room. They'd fed her porridge, salted meat, and bread for dinner. She told me later it was the best meal of her entire life. And now she was sitting at my table, staring at white bread, fried deer steak, roasted boar, bear stew, thick vegetable soup, and cheese like someone had opened the gates of heaven and accidentally let her in. Her nostrils were doing this adorable, tiny fluttering thing, trying to smell everything without anyone noticing. She kept swallowing. Her hands were in her lap, fingers twitching toward the food but not touching anything, because nobody said she could. The internal struggle playing across her face was genuinely painful to watch. Can I eat? Is this for me? Is this a test? Will they hit me? It looks so good. Please. Please. Gwyneth, I said. No response. She was in food hypnosis. Gwyneth, she launched out of her chair like a startled squirrel, nearly face-planted into the table edge, and was only saved by Green's ninja reflexes grabbing the back of her neck and placing her upright like a kitten being scruffed. How old are you? I asked. She blinked, held up her hands, started wiggling her fingers like she was doing mental arithmetic on an invisible piano. 10. No, 11. She doesn't know her own age. She's about 1.3 meters tall, roughly 4'3", with messy black hair, big brown deer eyes, cheeks so sunken they cast shadows, and arms like twigs. She looked like a skeleton wearing a child costume. The fact that this kid survived 2 years alone in the mountains is either a miracle or proof that her doom luck power works in reverse sometimes. You know who I am, right? You're the Lord, sir. Good. You're my attendant now. That means you stay near me. I eat this, you eat this. Go ahead. She sat down. Processing. Then, no fork, no knife, no hesitation. Her hand shot out like a striking cobra, snatched a white bread roll, and crammed it into her mouth. Both cheeks ballooned out. She looked like a chipmunk who'd just robbed a bakery. Aaron silently pushed his glass of milk toward her plate. Good man. Across the table, she was chewing intensely, fast intake, but surprisingly thorough, grinding everything to paste before swallowing. This kid learned to eat like every meal might be her last. Because it usually almost was. Scythe materialized beside me, clearly horrified by the table manners situation, reaching out to intervene. I blocked him with my arm. Let her eat. We'll teach her how to hold a fork when she's not starving anymore. After breakfast, we rode to Skagtown. The composting operation was running smoothly. Over 30 tons of fertilizer piled up already. Amazing what happens when you mobilize an entire population and pay them in lunch and wheat bonuses. Moore met me at the entrance with 2 terrified people shuffling behind him. My lord, this is Hard Novak and Seema Novak. Gwyneth Novak's parents. The moment Hard saw Gwyneth, he collapsed to his knees. Noble lord, please. That devil is not my daughter. Don't burn us alive. Gwyneth's face lit up when she first spotted them, then went dark like someone blew out a candle. Her own father was disowning her. Again, to her face, while she was standing right there. Gwyneth is my attendant now, I said flatly. Starting today, when you see her, you see me. Understood? Hard survival instinct kicked in instantly. If the Lord claimed the witch girl, that meant the church couldn't touch the family. His face flipped from terror to groveling gratitude so fast I almost got whiplash. Then the mother, Seema, spoke up. My lord, a few nights ago, a witch came to our home. Hard yanked her arm desperately. Shut up, woman. But Seema pushed through and told me about Shasta's nighttime visit. I already knew, of course. I'm aware. Don't spread this. Go back to work. Praise the Lord, Hard blurted, grabbed his wife, and fled like someone had lit his pants on fire. But as Seema turned to leave, she looked back at Gwyneth. Her expression was complicated. Guilt, love, fear, relief, all tangled up in a mother's face that couldn't say what it wanted to say in front of the man who owned everything. Gwyneth watched her mother walk away with eyes that had too much understanding for an 11-year-old. I said nothing. Some things aren't mine to fix. Not yet. But I silently added, reunite this family without anyone getting burned alive. To my ever-growing to-do list, somewhere between, build heavy plows, and overthrow the existing world order. Just another Tuesday. Let me tell you about Gwyneth's powers, because they're hilarious and terrifying in equal measure. She radiates bad luck. Not on purpose. She can't control it. Can't even tell which disasters are her fault and which are just regular medieval misery. After she awakened, her family got hit with everything. Broken bones, collapsing buildings, livestock going insane. It was like living inside a slapstick comedy, except nobody was laughing. Do I blame her parents for kicking her out? Honestly, no. A poor family has zero ability to absorb bad luck. One broken leg means nobody farms. Nobody farms means no food. No food means death. They were drowning, and Gwyneth was an anchor. It's awful, but I get it. Here's my theory, though. She doesn't just have doom powers. She also has luck powers. How else did an 11-year-old survive 2 years alone in monster-infested mountains? She conveniently found dead rabbits, edible mushrooms, non-poisonous berries. No predator ever found her shelter. That's not survival skills. That's statistical impossibility. The kid is a walking coin flip. Heads, your house collapses. Tails, a rabbit commits suicide into your dinner plate. As a transcendent, I can tank her bad luck. Physics still applies. She's not going to make a meteor fall on my head. Worst-case scenarios are things like broken legs and structural failures, and those need the right conditions. My estate isn't going to explode because a 12-year-old looked at it wrong. Besides, I noticed something interesting in the mountains. When Shasta and I were seconds from fighting, a wolf pack appeared out of nowhere and interrupted us. Coincidence? Or did Gwyneth's powers unconsciously prevent a bloodbath? No proof, but suspicious. If my entire farming operation collapses because of one skinny kid's bad vibes, I deserve to lose. Now, to the real excitement of the day, the heavy plows were ready. I visited Lack's smithy. 8 or 9 guys crammed in there hammering away like maniacs. The place was so packed they were basically forging iron while performing a group hug. For heavy plows completed so far. Slow, but they were getting faster. I told Lax to speed up. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days, because he hadn't, but nodded and prepared for another all-nighter. I ordered extra meat rations for all the forge workers. 1 pound of wild boar per meal. Shasta killed that boar. Might as well put it to good use. Then I loaded up all 4 plows, grabbed 6 oxen, and headed out to find the perfect farmland. I rode ahead on my horse, scanning the landscape. Aaron and Green drove the ox carts behind me. Gwyneth sat on the cart next to the plows, bouncing along like a tiny package of doom and fortune. Green whispered to Aaron, "Want to bet what happens next?" Aaron, "I bet we're about to plow fields." Green, "That ruins the whole point of betting." Aaron, "So no bet." Green rolled his eyes. I found the spot, a vast flat area north of Skagtown. Previously farmed and rested multiple times over the years, so the soil was level and relatively clear of rocks and roots. I jumped off my horse, dug into the earth, crumbled the deep soil between my fingers. Dark, slightly yellow rich. Perfect. I yoked 2 oxen together, hitched the heavy plow, and drove it into the ground. The result was beautiful. The vertical blades split the wet, heavy clay like butter. Deep furrows of dark soil rolling over, grass roots sheared clean, compacted earth broken apart. Everything the light plow couldn't do, this monster handled effortlessly. I plowed about 100 meters to test, then stopped and turned to my knights. You two, plow east for 1 kilometer, then north for 1.3 kilometers. Green pointed at himself in disbelief. Me? Yes, you. You, the mighty combat knight. Grab a plow. Become a farmer. This is your life now. Other knights would judge me, he protested. Which other knights? We're in the most remote basin in the entire kingdom. Who's going to see you? The squirrels? I originally planned to give each of us 1 plow, but then I remembered these two have 0 farming experience. So I paired them up on 1 plow while I took another. Aaron accepted his fate with his usual silent dignity. Green accepted it with his usual dramatic suffering. And Gwyneth just sat on the cart watching 3 warriors argue about dirt, probably wondering if this whole civilization thing was really an upgrade from eating mountain mushrooms alone. Spoiler, it is. The mushrooms didn't come with bear stew. No lunch until you finish, I told Green and Aaron. Green wilted like a flower in a drought. The man's entire motivation system runs on food. Threaten his meals, and he becomes the most obedient knight in recorded history. He started muttering while hitching up the oxen. Other lords feed their knights white bread and roasted meat. Other knights get to fight battles and win glory. I'm out here plowing fields like a peasant with a fancy sword. Aaron, meanwhile, just grabbed the plow and got to work without a single complaint. That man's acceptance of suffering is almost Buddhist. Gwyneth was watching us with sparkly eyes from the ox cart. Lord sir, what about me? She was ready to help. This kid grew up on a farm. Manual labor is all she knows. She was genuinely excited to get an assignment. Sit there. Don't wander off. She's skin and bones. If I gave her a plow, she'd snap in half. Bringing her along was basically just taking the kid outside for fresh air. Like a pet. A very cursed pet. Oh. She sat on the cart and started doing the head-swiveling thing that bored children do everywhere in every century. Looking left, looking right, picking at the wood, looking at the sky. Universal kid behavior. Transcends time periods. I started plowing, humming a little tune, watching the beautiful deep furrows roll out behind me. Planting experience 1. The heavy plow was a revelation. The vertical iron blade sliced through the wet clay like a hot knife through cheese. 15 centimeters deep, soil that had never been turned before. The old light plows barely scratched the surface. This monster ripped open the earth's belly and spilled rich black dirt everywhere. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It took me over an hour to plow just 1.3 kilometers though. Heavy plows are slow, but the quality? Worth every minute. Green and Aaron finished their section faster since they were taking turns, and Aaron, because he's Aaron, had picked out every rock, root, and dirt clump from the furrow as they went. From above, we'd drawn a perfect rectangle, 1 kilometer by 1.3 kilometers. 2,000 acres, outlined and ready. When we met up at the junction point, Gwyneth was giving me the universal, I'm starving, face. Big eyes, slight lean forward, trying not to look desperate while looking extremely desperate. Lunchtime, I snapped my fingers and we headed back. After eating, Scythe ambushed me with paperwork. You should review Skagtown's finances, my lord. I took the stack of leather papers and immediately wanted to set them on fire. The records were an absolute disaster. A complete joke. Moore had been running this place like his personal piggy bank with 0 accountability. He'd write down transactions when he felt like it, skip them when he didn't. The Duke's tax collector came once a year, took a fixed amount, and never checked anything. Moore didn't even know his own population count. His entire financial strategy was, don't let farmers starve, make them have lots of babies, farm more land, sell surplus grain, pocket the difference. When farmers hit hard times, he'd lend them grain at insane interest rates. I found an actual entry. Loan Novak family 100 pounds of rye. Repaid 150 pounds after harvest. Still owe 100 pounds next year. That's Gwyneth's family. The people who were already so broke that one broken leg nearly destroyed them. And Moore was running a medieval loan shark operation on top of it. Oh, and did I mention? Noble lords in this world have nearly unlimited power over their subjects, including, and I wish I was joking, the right of first night. Some nobles actually exercise that right. The feudal system is basically a horror movie with tax paperwork. I called Moore over. He arrived pre-sweating, as usual. I took Scythe's quill pen and drew a big fat X across every single page of financial records. Cross them all out, one after another, like Sun Wukong rewriting the book of life and death. All previous debts are canceled. Understood, Moore nodded frantically. He knew better than to argue. I'd already seized all the land. How were farmers supposed to repay grain debts when they don't control their own fields anymore? Of course, I'm not naive. I know these farmers are secretly planting little patches of grain when I'm not looking. Nighttime guerrilla farming. That's fine. As long as they show up for daytime work, I'll pretend not to notice. They still owe me 50% of whatever they harvest anyway, and you can't exactly hide a field of wheat. New financial system starts now. Every transaction recorded. Every expense tracked. Every income documented. No more one-man piggy banks. No more loan sharking. Moore's comfortable little kingdom of creative accounting just got audited by a reincarnated gamer who takes spreadsheets very personally. And somewhere on a card, Gwyneth was eating her third bread roll of the day, completely unaware that I'd just erased her family's crippling debt with a pen stroke. You're welcome, kid. Consider it a signing bonus for my future 6-star apostle. Moore nodded so hard I thought his head would detach and roll away. He'd been bracing for me to explode over those financial records. Instead, I just crossed everything out. Anticlimactic for him, liberating for me. Scythe, you're handling Skagtown's finances from now on. Scythe sighed the sigh of a man who knows he's about to deliver terrible news. My lord, we will be bankrupt by winter. Then he hit me with the math. Guards get no cash salary but receive annual compensation in grain. 50 pounds of wheat, 140 pounds of mixed grain, plus a 50% tax exemption. Being a guard is actually a great gig here. You need connections just to get the job. The 16 managers? Even worse. 5 silver coins per year each, plus 120 pounds of wheat, 50 pounds of mixed grain, 30 pounds of meat, and full tax exemption. These guys live like kings compared to regular farmers. They're the only people who can afford to own slaves. Total annual payroll, roughly 8 gold coins in cash, plus thousands of pounds of grain and meat. And that's not counting what I owe Aaron, Green, and Scythe. Add them and the bill triples. Here's the crisis. Before I showed up, Skagtown was financially healthy. Moore sold surplus grain, bought cattle, everyone survived. Then I arrived and demolished the entire production system. Seized all land. Stopped all farming. Redirected the entire workforce to collecting poop and building plows. Scythe's projection, farmers stored food lasts until summer. Autumn they can forage berries and wild vegetables. But winter? People will starve. And there's zero cash flow to pay anyone because we have nothing to sell. Scythe's unspoken message was crystal clear. Stop messing around and let them farm before we all die. I heard the numbers and my reaction was, oh, is that all? Scythe looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Again, my first instinct was to shake down Moore. The man's been skimming profits for years. He's basically a walking piggy bank. But then I thought, why slaughter the pig when I already own the whole farm? Everything he has is technically mine already. Plus, he's been obedient and useful. Keep the fat pig fed, and it produces more bacon. Then I noticed something interesting about the manager payroll. Why are these salaries so high? Moore's freshly dried face started sweating again. He stammered and dodged. They're your relatives, aren't they? I said flatly. Brothers, sisters, cousins, sweat Niagara. 16 managers, all from the base family network. Moore had turned Skagtown's entire administrative structure into a family business. Everyone getting cushy pay, cushier benefits, and zero accountability. Classic nepotism in a place where nobody was watching. Was I worried about him undermining me? Not really. My orders were being followed. The moment they weren't, I'd remind everyone what combat nights are actually for. I firmly believe that if you kill enough people, you can solve any organizational problem. It's not nice management philosophy, but it's effective. All right, new salary structure, I announced. All managers, 1 silver coin per year, 100 pounds of wheat, 300 pounds of mixed grain. No meat. Tax exemption stays. That's roughly a 60 to 70% pay cut. Brutal. Any objections? I smiled at Moore. His inner monologue was practically written on his face. My salary wasn't cut, so I personally don't care, but my 17 uncles and cousins are going to riot. If anyone has complaints, they can come discuss it with me directly. Your will is my command, Lord Roman. Nobody was going to complain to me directly. Complaining to a lord who casually mentions killing people is like filing a grievance with a volcano. The base family could survive on their savings. They just have to stop eating meat every day. Welcome to austerity, you parasitic vine people. Then I shifted to something that actually mattered. The guards who died yesterday. How are their families? More reported. Dead guards' families received 5 silver coins, 40 pounds of meat, and 80 pounds of wheat each. Seriously wounded got 2 silver coins, 15 pounds of meat, 40 pounds of wheat. Even the lightly wounded got 10 to 50 pounds of wheat. Aaron and Green personally delivered everything. 2 armored knights showing up at your door with compensation hits differently than a clerk with a clipboard. The payout was so generous that the wounded guards were actually jealous of the dead ones. When your death benefits are better than your life, you know the compensation package is working. I'd paid for all of it out of my own pocket. My shrinking, terrifyingly small pocket. I wanted to pull the remaining guards for military training. Their combat performance in the mountains was embarrassing, but I couldn't spare them. These guys double as police, supervisors, and order keepers. Remove them for training, and the entire workforce stops functioning because nobody's watching them. Medieval management problems. I can't train my army because my army is my middle management. Somewhere, a business school professor is crying, and he doesn't know why. Never overestimate peasants' work ethic. Free lunch doesn't make them motivated. It makes them fed. You still need the stick. I told Aaron, train all guards 3 hours daily. He frowned. He's never been a drill instructor. But after watching those guards collapse like wet noodles against one bear and a few wolves, he knew something had to change. Fine, he said. Green showed zero jealousy about not getting picked for instructor duty. Teaching people requires patience, and Green has the patience of a hummingbird on caffeine. Then I dropped the real bombshell on more. Guards now get monthly salaries. 2 copper coins, 10 pounds of wheat, 10 pounds of mixed grain, and 2 pounds of meat. More blinked. Salaries? That's barely. Then his brain caught up. Wait. Monthly. In this world, guards are basically conscripts. They get annual grain handouts and a tax break. Cash salary? Monthly payments? That's unheard of. I just made town guard the hottest career path in the entire basin. But their standards, I added. Fail my requirements, you're out. Excel, you get bonuses. Also, fold the hunters into the guard force. Dota is their captain now. Moore's handkerchief was wrung out like a dish rag by the time I finished. He scurried off to announce everything. Scythe materialized behind me like a disappointed ghost. You still haven't solved the winter bankruptcy, my lord. You cut manager pay, but raised guard pay. Net savings. Almost nothing. He's right, technically. The real expense is my own team. Aaron and Green earn in gold coins. Add side's salary and the craftsman's fees, and my budget is a burning building. I'll fix it before spring ends, I told him with complete confidence. He stared at me, wanting to argue, but something stopped him. I think part of Scythe, the part buried under decades of etiquette obsession, actually believes in me a little. He's watched me grow up. He knows I'm not normal. Then he said, at least button your shirt properly. Your collar is crooked. There's mud on your pants. This is undignified, and proceeded to fix my outfit like I was a 5-year-old heading to church. Straightening, buttoning, brushing dirt off, tuteing the entire time. I stood there and took it because honestly, fighting Scythe on dress code is harder than fighting wolves. After he left, I grabbed the newest heavy plow from the forge and rounded up 50 experienced farmers plus a manager. We marched to the 2,000-acre rectangle I'd outlined that morning. Time for show and tell. I demonstrated the heavy plow personally. Hitched the oxen, gripped the handles, drove it into the earth. The blade sank deep, rich black soil rolling up on both sides like ocean waves. Rocks, thick tree roots, compacted clay, everything ripped out of the ground. The farmers went insane. The Lord's plow is so big and wide. You don't even have to step on it. Look, a rock the size of my head just popped out. A tree root thick as my arm. Black soil. From the bottom, they were practically jumping up and down. These people have farmed their entire lives with pathetic light plows that barely scratch the surface. They had to physically stand on their plows and bounce to get any depth. And even then, shallow cuts, minimal results, plant and pray agriculture. Now they were watching soil get turned at depths they'd never seen before. They didn't need an explanation of soil science or crop yields. They could see it. Dark, nutrient-rich earth that had been locked underground since before their grandparents were born, now exposed and ready for planting. And then the whispers, wait, the Lord knows how to plow. His technique is better than mine. Who is the farmer here? I caught that one and almost laughed. Here's what I hadn't fully appreciated until now. These farmers were on the edge. 3 days of collecting poop instead of planting had pushed them to the breaking point. They didn't understand composting, didn't understand seed selection. All they knew was, planting season is burning away and the new Lord won't let us farm. A few more days and I'd have had a riot on my hands. The heavy plow demonstration was perfectly timed. The collective relief was almost physical, shoulders dropping, fists unclenching, hope returning to faces that had been clenched with anxiety for days. The Lord isn't crazy. There is a plan. That plow turns soil like nothing we've ever seen. Maybe we won't starve after all. I assigned all 50 farmers to deep plow the entire 2,000 acres. 4 plows for 50 people seems low, but most of the labor isn't plowing. It's clearing the debris that gets churned up. Rocks, roots, stumps, dead grass. This morning I hit a buried tree stump that took me 15 minutes of swearing and pulling to extract, and the broken roots were still down there. 2,000 acres of that. These 50 guys are going to earn every bite of their free lunch. But for the first time since I arrived, I could feel the mood shifting. Fear was turning into curiosity. Resentment was turning into cautious hope. They still think I'm insane. But now they think I might be insane and competent. That's progress. This land used to be a forest. You can tell because every few meters of plowing, you hit a tree stump buried underground like a landmine made of wood. Nobody ever cleared them because the farmers had no proper tools and figured, there's plenty of other dirt. But I refused to let a single root or rock contaminate my premium farmland. Everything comes out. My available workforce, about 700 people after subtracting everyone needed to keep Skagtown functioning. Most of them are still on poop duty, which should wrap up in 3 days. After that, every freed hand gets redirected to plowing these 2,000 acres until the soil begs for mercy. The heavy plow stats, half a meter of plowing width per pass, only needs 1 deep pass. 2 oxen can plow 6 acres per day if you keep them going straight. That's why I picked this wide-open flatland. Turning a heavy plow is like performing a 17-point turn in a parking lot. Nightmare. Lax needs 7 more days to finish all 40 plows. So each one goes into service the moment it's forged. 13 days total to deep plow 2,000 acres. By then, the compost will be fermented and ready. Deep plow, then seed, then fertilize. Race against the calendar. Spring waits for nobody. Here's the part one haven't told anyone yet. This year, Skagtown is only farming 2,000 acres, down from over 10,000. When the farmers figure this out, and they will, they might riot. From their perspective, 2,000 acres for 2,000 people equals starvation. They don't know about deep plowing, composting, seed selection, or yield multiplication. They just know less land equals less food equals dead family. Will I explain the science? No. Will I negotiate? No. Will I suppress a revolt if it comes to that? Absolutely. Even if 100 farmers die in the process, the remaining 1,700 will fall in line, and my agricultural revolution continues on schedule. Harsh. Yes, but I didn't reincarnate into a medieval hellscape to lose a popularity contest. My will gets implemented. Period. Now, the exciting part, after planting is done, 4/5 of the labor force gets freed from farming. 4/5. For generations, every single person in this basin has been chained to the soil from birth to death. Endless backbreaking work on endless terrible land for endless terrible yields. A curse disguised as a way of life. I'm breaking that curse. And those freed hands will build roads, mine ore, construct buildings, and transform this basin into something this world has never seen. But first things first. The game system showed me iron and stone deposits in the mountains during yesterday's hike. Can't mine deep mountains yet though, need proper infrastructure. And mapping my entire territory will take 6 months to a year of walking every corner. Not happening right now. What I can do right now, grind my gathering skill. How? Chop trees. There's a sprawling forest north of Origin Estate that I've been glaring at since day one. It's sitting on potential farmland and building material, being useless. Today it dies. I checked on the kids first. Hans and German were teaching 300 children the alphabet and basic numbers in an outdoor classroom. The students were not great, but I didn't expect geniuses. Literacy is the goal. Everything else comes later. I grabbed an axe from the supply shed and headed for the forest alone. Then I heard tiny footsteps behind me. Gwyneth was following me like a baby duckling imprinting on its mother. "Why are you following me?" She froze mid-step, panicked. "You said I'm your attendant?" I was going to send her to class with the other kids, but then I remembered her doom aura might cause accidents around Hans and German. A collapsing blackboard here, a tripping student there, and suddenly my expensive tutors are filing workplace injury claims. Fine. Come on. Her face broke into the biggest smile I'd seen from her. She bounced over on her tiptoes like a happy little skeleton. Here's what I find fascinating about Gwyneth. She's not afraid of bringing bad luck to me. For her entire life, her powers have been a source of terror to her family, to herself. Everyone she's been near has suffered. But a lord? A lord represents power. Absolute, unquestionable power. And to a child who's been told she's a curse on the world, hiding behind that power feels like standing behind a mountain during a storm. Nothing can reach you. Nothing can hurt you. The mountain doesn't care about your little curse. I'm her mountain. And if her doom aura tries anything funny while I'm chopping trees, well, I'm a transcendent with an axe and anger management issues. Physics still applies. The worst her powers can do is make a branch fall on my head, and my skull is harder than most branches. Let's go chop some wood, Doom Child. Daddy's got gathering XP to farm. North of my estate, past the 10 acres of vegetable garden I'd already planted, there's a forest that's been annoying me since day one. Today, it pays for its insolence. I walked up and assessed my enemy. Mostly red pine, some elm and ash. Tall, thick, arrogant trees surrounded by dense bushes and grass so tangled that a human could barely push through. This forest thought it was safe. It thought wrong. I spent the first 30 minutes hacking through the edge, dry bushes, weeds, undergrowth. Gwyneth trailed behind me like a tiny cleanup crew, stacking everything I cut into neat piles. Good kid. Useful kid. Gathering experience 1.0 hello. Even clearing bushes gives me gathering XP. This skill is going to be fun to grind. Then I discovered something beautiful under the pine trees, a 10-centimeter layer of decomposed pine needles. Natural compost. Pre-made fertilizer just sitting there, years of fallen needles rotting into perfect nutrient-rich soil. Not enough for the big fields, but more than enough for my 10 acres of vegetable garden right next door. Free fertilizer, zero transport cost. Just scoop and spread. This forest went from annoying obstacle to free resource dispenser in about 5 minutes. I like it slightly more now. Still going to destroy it though. First target, a red pine, 15 meters tall, trunk about 80 centimeters across. A real big boy. I scraped the bark off to expose the whitewood underneath, then started the technique. Diagonal chop downward. The axe sinks 4 or 5 centimeters using mostly gravity and momentum, not brute force. Pull it out. Repeat. After several diagonal cuts, switch to horizontal cuts to carve out a wedge. Expand the V-shaped notch. Pacing is everything. I plan to chop all afternoon. Can't burn out in the first hour like some amateur lumberjack having an existential crisis. 10 minutes. Standard V-notch, 30 centimeters deep. Then I cut a second notch on the backside. Then a third on the flank. Wood chips flying everywhere, big chunks bouncing 2 or 3 meters out. Gwyneth moved back. She'd been watching me with this hypnotized expression, like she found the rhythm of axe on wood oddly mesmerizing. She snapped out of it and sprinted away. 5 more heavy chops, and crack. The pine started falling. Slowly, majestically, toward me. I had deliberately cut the opposite notch higher so it would fall away from me. Physics said it should fall the other direction. But physics apparently didn't account for the doomed child standing 20 meters behind me, radiating good luck in my direction and bad luck toward the tree's intended landing zone. The tree literally fell the wrong way because Gwyneth's proximity made the universe decide, let's mess with Roman specifically. I casually stepped aside. The 15-meter pine slammed into the ground right where I'd been standing. If I were a normal, malnourished, slow-reacting farmer, pancake. But I'm a transcendent with reflexes and an increasingly thick skin toward cosmic irony. HM, gathering experience 2 points for 1 tree. Nice. An hour per tree is decent speed. I stripped the branches, turned it into a clean log, and tossed the pine branches onto Gwyneth's growing pile. Then Aaron showed up. How should I train the guards tomorrow? I laid it out. Start from absolute basics. Standing at attention, forming lines, turning on command, counting off, marching in step. I need a real military unit, not a neighborhood watch with pointy sticks. He nodded. He'd heard me talk about this since we were kids, my dream of building an unstoppable army. Back at the Duke's estate, there was never space for my ambitions. Here, blank canvas. I've raised their pay and their food, I added. So push them hard. No excuses. After spring, I'll pull farmers into the ranks too. Your current guards become the future officer corps. Use green if you need help. Aaron left with purpose in his step. That man was born for this job. He just didn't know it yet. I turned back to my forest massacre when a small voice piped up behind me. Lord Sir, this is for you. Gwyneth was holding up both hands full of hazelnuts. She'd found them somewhere in the underbrush, last year's crop, still perfectly preserved. No mold, no bugs, no moisture damage. She'd probably raided some squirrel's entire retirement savings. I cracked one open with the axe, popped it in my mouth. Incredible. Crispy, fragrant, rich. I ate the entire handful. Want some? I offered. She looked at her feet, tugging her shirt hem. I used to eat lots of those, right? 2 years in the mountains. Nuts, berries, and mushrooms were probably her main diet. She wasn't sharing a snack. She was giving me the one thing she knew how to provide. The only currency she had. I ate every single one without saying another word about it. She smiled like the sun came out. Then I picked up my axe and went back to murdering trees, because I have a gathering skill to level and an emotional moment to pretend didn't happen. Gathering experience won 5 trees yesterday, 3 big ones and 2 smaller ones today. My arms felt like overcooked noodles, but the gathering XP was stacking up nicely. 20 points total, 80 more to hit level 2. 4 or 5 more days of lumberjacking, and I'd unlock mining and quarrying knowledge. Priorities. Gwyneth sat on a log the entire time, watching me chop would like it was the most riveting entertainment she'd ever seen. Chin in hands, eyes wide, completely absorbed. This child spent 2 years alone in the wilderness with zero stimulation. So honestly, watching a guy hit wood with a sharp thing probably is peak entertainment for her. Every time a tree fell, she'd hand me a handkerchief like a tiny corner assistant at a boxing match. Last night at dinner, Scythe warned me. Farmers were getting restless. They wanted land. They'd even accept 60% tax, up from 50, if I'd just let them farm their own plots the old way. I chewed my lamb chop and said, why would I give them land? They say you're violating the rental contract, my lord. So I am. They can go tell the Black Iron King about it. Scythe thinks I should go slow. Test my methods on 100 acres. If it works, expand next year. Safe. Sensible. Boring. Slow. I didn't travel to the edge of civilization to do things safely. I'm all in. The table is flipped. No going back. But I should have seen what was coming. This morning, I was mid-swing on my 8th tree overall when a male servant came sprinting from the estate in full panic mode. My lord. Trouble. I jogged back to Origin Estate and saw it immediately. Several hundred farmers had marched to the base of my hill and formed a mob. My guards had thrown up a spear line to block them. Aaron and Green stood in full armor at the front like 2 metal statues of, don't even think about it. There was blood on the ground. Someone had already tried something stupid. Moore and his managers were hiding behind anything solid they could find, absolutely useless. But Scythe, old, uptight, etiquette-obsessed Scythe, was standing directly in front of the crowd, back straight, lecturing them about proper conduct like a teacher scolding a classroom. Alone, unarmed, outnumbered by hundreds. That magnificent rigid lunatic. I'm giving him a raise. In my heart, at least. I can't actually afford raises. When I appeared at the top of the slope, the crowd surged forward. Aaron stepped up, shield raised like a stone wall against the tide, pushing Scythe behind him. What are you doing? I shouted. Silence. Every eye locked on me. The front line was a row of old farmers, trembling but determined. One spoke up. Lord Sir, we need land. Denied. The crowd churned behind him. The land you've marked for farming is too small. We need more. So they'd figured it out. They looked at my 2,000-acre rectangle and did the math their grandfathers would have done. That's not enough. Not by their calculations. Not with their experience. In their world, 2,000 acres for 2,000 people equals mass starvation. They don't know about deep plowing. Don't know about composting. Don't know about seed selection. Don't know that one properly farmed acre can produce what 5 of their garbage acres couldn't. All they see is, tiny field, big population equals dead children. And they'd stewed on this fear for exactly 1 day before erupting. The old farmer's voice was small, humble, but iron underneath. We need land distribution. It's the only way we won't starve. Even if you raise taxes, we'll accept it. I acted like I didn't hear him. Did you do your work today? How much fertilizer did you pile? How many acres did you plow? Did you pick up the new heavy plow from the forge? He shook his head. Lord, sir, we beg your mercy. We can't see any hope of survival. These people weren't being greedy. They weren't being rebellious. They were terrified. Parents looking at their children and seeing winter starvation. That's not something you can lecture away. But I also can't back down. If I give them land, my entire plan collapses. The workforce scatters across 10,000 acres of garbage farmland. Nobody works my optimized fields. Nobody builds infrastructure. Nobody mines, or everything I've done for 10 days becomes worthless. I looked down at hundreds of frightened, angry, desperate faces and said the only thing I could think of. Tell me, what would make you obey? Not my most diplomatic moment. But I never promised diplomacy. I promised results. The question is whether these people will survive long enough to see them. My gaze swept across them. Every head dropped. But not a single person stepped back. Stones. Stubborn, immovable stones. The old farmer at the front spoke with a voice like cracked earth. Lord, sir, you took all our land. You broke every agreement. We don't know how to survive. You must understand, farmers cannot exist without land. Just as you and your knights cannot exist without white bread. I fired back. You won't pay land taxes anymore. You'll never go hungry again. I have more than enough ways to feed you. You just have to obey. That's the only thing I'm asking. He shook his head. I cannot believe that, my lord. How can 2,000 acres feed all of us? What if I swear it? A promise. This year, next year, every year until my last day as Lord, not one person starves. You still won't believe me. The old man considered this for a long, careful moment. No, you're questioning me. You're destroying yourself. Leave. Now. I'll forgive your disrespect. He didn't leave. Instead, he laid out the most rational, devastating argument anyone had thrown at me since I arrived. We know what 1 acre produces. We know what 2,000 acres produces. Your heavy plows are impressive, but their results are unknown. Those plows can't create divine miracles. We trust our own hands more. We can feed you and ourselves, if you'll just give us the chance. You've been kind. You fed us porridge. You work alongside us. You plow better than any of us. The slaves say they've never seen a lord like you. But grain has limits. Eventually we'll be eating bark and dirt. And when the food runs out, you can leave this land. Can we? He was right about one thing. From their perspective, this is insane. 2,000 acres for 2,000 people, using techniques they've never seen, promising results that have never existed in their world. I was asking them to bet their children's lives on my word. So you refuse to obey? I said. We only want land, my lord. You cannot trap us in those 2,000 acres. Even if I tell you it's enough, that would be like saying we never have to worry about food again. I can't imagine such a thing. Your promise is too impossible to believe, I said quietly. Then those who oppose me, step forward. The old farmer paused for 1 second, then stepped forward. Others followed, one by one. 13 people total. The rest didn't move. They watched. They prayed I'd back down. I took Green's greatsword, mountain copper and steel, over 10 pounds, meant for 2 hands. I spun it in one. These 13 were the oldest farmers in Skagtown. 40, 50 years old, ancient by medieval standards. They'd spent their entire lives reading soil and sky. They knew, with the bone-deep certainty of lifelong experience, that what I was attempting was impossible. And as long as they lived, they'd keep organizing resistance, keep pulling others into defiance, keep burning precious days I couldn't afford to lose. The old man saw the sword. He knew what was coming. His body trembled, but for the first time in his life, he straightened the spine that decades of labor had bent. I ran him through. Then the next, and the next. None of them fought back. They fell like old oxen, a final groan, then silence. 13 bodies on the grass. A young, dark-skinned farmer pushed through the crowd and fell to his knees beside the first body, sobbing, holding the old man who was already growing cold. "What's your name?" I asked. "Borrow. This was my father, Matthew Borrow, one-star apostle. I'd pulled his card days ago from the gotcha pool and hadn't known which face it belonged to. Now I did. He'd tried to talk his father out of this. But the old man had been certain. Someone had to stand up, even if the only thing waiting was a blade. Someone had to make the Lord hear them. He succeeded. It cost everything. Borrow. I'm promoting you to agricultural manager. You'll work with more to farm that land. And you will see, with your own eyes, what your father couldn't dare to imagine." I turned to the crowd. Every face frozen. Every breath held. "Obey me. Support me. Serve me. Give me your lives, as small and ordinary as they are, and I will protect you forever. If in this year, next year, or any year until my last day as Lord, I let a single one of you starve, I release the sword." It fell point first into the earth, blade still wet with blood, buried itself in the grass up to the crossguard. Then pull this sword out and put it through my chest. Silence. The wind moved the grass. Somewhere, a bird called. I turned and walked away. This isn't the part of the story where I make a joke. There's no punchline. 13 people died because the world they lived in couldn't conceive of the world I'm trying to build. They weren't wrong to be afraid. They weren't stupid. They weren't villains. That old man was braver than most knights I've met. He stood up knowing exactly what it would cost. And I killed him anyway. Because if I blinked, if I gave an inch, the whole plan collapses. The fields don't get planted. The revolution dies. And next winter, instead of 13 dead, it's hundreds. Thousands. Everyone. That's what I tell myself. That's what I'll keep telling myself. The sword is still standing in the ground where I left it. Let it stay. Let it rust. Let everyone who walks past it remember what I promised. If I'm wrong about those 2,000 acres, that blade has my name on it. I was ready to kill 100 people if I had to. That was the worst-case plan. Turns out I only needed 13. Let me explain why this wasn't the apocalypse everyone might think it was. Imagine some guy invents a miracle fertilizer and tells a modern country, "Throw away 80% of your farmland. Trust me, this stuff makes crops grow 5 times bigger." Nobody would believe him. The protests would be volcanic. Now scale that down to a town of 2,000 where the miracle fertilizer is composted poop and a heavier plow. Same reaction, smaller crowd. Here's the math of rebellion that nobody teaches you. Everyone opposed my plan. 100% disagreement. But opposition has layers. Layer 1. People who disagree but shrug and go along. More than half. Layer 2. People who disagree strongly but are too scared to protest. More than half of what's left. Layer 3. People who'll protest but are afraid to die. More than half of that. Layer 4. People genuinely willing to die for their beliefs. 13. Out of nearly 2,000. And I never actually pushed them to the edge. Their pantries still had food. Their bellies still had lunch, my free lunch. Nobody was starving today. They were afraid of starving in winter. That's rational fear, not desperation. Rational fear doesn't fuel revolutions. Empty stomachs do. After the blood dried, you know what happened? Everyone went back to work. Not because they loved me. Because the alternative was worse, and deep down, they're practical people. The 2,000 acres are now their only hope for this year's harvest. They care about those fields more than I do. They'll farm them like their lives depend on it. Because their lives depend on it. And if I'm wrong, that sword is still stuck in the ground, rusting in the rain, waiting for someone to pull it out and collect on my promise. Everything went back to normal. I went back to chopping trees. By day 4 of my lumberjack career, I'd cleared a massive area at the forest's edge. Half an hour per tree now, my technique was getting slick. The gathering XP was climbing steadily. Then Scythe brought me a visitor, a traveling merchant named Darkin. Thin guy, 30s, handlebar mustache, money pouch on his belt. He'd sailed into Skag Town expecting routine business, and instead heard that the new lord had seized all land, restricted farming to 2,000 acres, and executed everyone who disagreed. The man was terrified. He'd tried to flee, but my guards caught him. Classic. I put on my friendly face. "You're a salt merchant?" And not just salt. I also carry wool, wine, medicine, candles, cheese, butter. Poor guy was listing inventory like a hostage reading demands. He was mentally calculating how much he'd lose if I just confiscated everything. His backup plan involved insurance claims through the Merchant Guild and a royal court lawsuit. But since my last name is Crackcle, that lawsuit would get buried faster than those tree stumps I keep digging up. How much salt do you have? About 500 pounds. Price: 1 copper coin per pound. More expensive up north. 2 or 3 coppers in the cold lands. Salt economics are wild. Buying price: 2 silver coins per 100 pounds. Selling price: 1 gold coin per 100 pounds. The markup is insane, but supply is limited. Big merchants control the salt trade, and guys like Darkin only get table scraps. I didn't need his salt today, just wanted information. Then I asked the real question: what about slaves? Prices? He blinked. Regular slaves start at 1 silver. Strong or skilled ones go for 2 to 5 silver. Cheap damaged ones: 8 coppers or less. How many can you bring me? Maybe 20. I'll give you 20 gold coins. How many for that? His spine straightened so fast I heard it click. At least 120. 20 gold coins is a fortune for a small merchant. Transportation to this remote basin adds costs. Each 1 silver slave would run closer to 1.5 silver delivered. But it's a massive deal with serious profit margin. His eyes were doing math at lightning speed. Timeline: 1 month minimum. No major wars on the Black Iron continent recently, so slaves aren't as plentiful locally. He'd need to source from other lands. I gave him 10 gold coins up front, 10 on delivery. Then sweetened the pot. His commercial tax rate in Skagtown would be 1 in 20. 5%. His jaw actually dropped. Most nobles charge 10%. Greedy ones charge 16%. Some tax salt specifically at 33%, 1 coin out of every 3. Merchants basically work for free in those territories. 5%. On everything including salt. Your generous policies will echo up and down the entire Bro River, he stammered. Yeah, that's the idea. Low taxes attract merchants. Merchants bring goods. Goods build economy. Economy builds power. It's not complicated. It's just that every other noble on this continent is too stupid and greedy to figure it out. Darkin practically skipped to Side's office to collect his advance payment. So my shopping list now stands at 50 oxen, 100 draft horses from Mori, 120 slaves from Darkin, 40 heavy plows from Lax, 2,000 acres to plow, 100 tons of composted poop, 300 children to educate, and 1 lord who chops trees every afternoon with a cursed child sitting on a log eating hazelnuts. The empire grows. 1 axe swing at a time.